Okay, folks, let's go ahead and bring our meeting to order. All rise for Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Let's go ahead and take a roll call when you're ready, Crystal, please.
Trustee Gator. Here. Trustee Jerome.
Here.
Trustee Kenny.
Present.
Trustee McDonald.
Here.
Trustee Whitehouse.
Here.
Mayor Knutson.
Here.
Mayor Hamman.
Here. Are there any amendments to our agenda tonight that we need to be aware of? Okay. Any conflicts of interest we need to be aware of tonight? Okay. Move on to item B. This is a public comment. We will begin with individuals attending virtually. So if you are wishing to speak on items that are not related to action items tonight on this week's agenda, you will need to raise your hand now. Once called upon, please state your name and address for the record, and individuals will be limited to 3 minutes during public comment. After that, the public will be heard virtually. We'll be taking public comment here in town.
Sorry, just.
Okay, hope you all got that. Couple times.
That's my fault. Apologies.
All right, we'll take.
Okay. It looks like we have Phyllis. If you can state your name and address for the record, you will have 3 minutes to speak, please.
We will if we can't get any action here. That's.
It was all working before you all showed up.
I don't know. I couldn't hear the heater was going on. I talked to you to turn it down.
It says Phyllis is talking.
Okay. On page 24 of 34 of the comprehensive plan, it says that a plan is being laid for the sale of marijuana in Wellington. I used to live in a large city for more than 30 years where drugs were a major problem, and none of them were, of course, legal. During that time in the neighborhood, 2 meth houses blew up. There was a home invasion a block away. There were constant attempts to victimize us and others. To make a long story short, while walking on a sidewalk one
Phyllis?
day near my home.
Phyllis, excuse
Yeah.
me. I'm so sorry. We had some AV trouble here. I'm really sorry to have to ask you to start over, but would you please start over with your name, address, and from the beginning? I'm really sorry. We couldn't hear you at all from here.
Okay, was it on my side or your side? Or I'll go ahead.
On
and-
our side, It was an issue on our side, but we're ready to go now and we can hear you.
Okay,
Sorry.
That's okay. Good evening, trustees. My name is Phyllis Mortensen. My address is 3705 McKinley Avenue. And on page 34 of the comprehensive plan, it says that a plan is being laid for the sale of marijuana in Wellington. I used to live in a large city for more than 30 years where drugs were a major problem, and while none of them, of course, were legal. During that time in our neighborhood, 2 meth houses blew up. There was a home invasion a block away. There were constant attempts to victimize me and others. Just to make a long story short, while walking on a sidewalk one day near my home, a half-dressed man accosted me and tried to push me back into the bushes behind some houses where people driving by would not see it. It was God's protection that my husband happened to be in the car nearby when this angry, drug-filled man would likely have killed me. I would ask, is that the kind of neighborhoods we want here in Wellington? We moved to Wellington 12 years ago because we like the low crime place, nice people, and good atmosphere. It, of course, is well known that marijuana can lead to hardcore drug use. And of course, when there are drugs around, more people will come to town to sell it. People have said that they want to have marijuana sold here because of the money it will bring in. I would ask, what's more important, money or the safety and well-being of our citizens? Money or a safe environment for our children and grandchildren to grow up in? Drugs can lead to many problems in society and cause accidents of people driving down the highway, suicides, homelessness, family breakups, and more. We all stand accountable to God for the decisions we make in this life. Let us make the right decisions. I would also ask that the trustees would do everything that they can in their power to ensure that all elections in Wellington are fair by using paper ballots, requiring an ID card, in-person voting, a hand count of all ballots, and no mail-in ballots unless they were requested by a certain person and then a proper ID. Thank you for letting me speak this evening.
Thank you, sir. Next. Ma'am? I saw that, but I'm sorry, ma'am.
We have no other hands raised at this time. Oh, I'm sorry. Michael Clark just raised his hand. If you can unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Michael Clark, and I live over in the Sage Meadows neighborhood. And I just wanted
Mr.
to,
Clark, I'm sorry, would you please state your address for the record?
no, I won't state my address. And the reason why I won't do that is I'm telling you the neighborhood that I live in. You can check that with public records if you want to, but there's been a lot of political hate lately. And the topic that I want to speak on, I don't want things to be done to me or my family. And we've all seen things happening with Antifa, with people who were witnesses in the George Floyd trial and all those kinds of things. And so I would rather not state my specific address.
Okay, Mr. Clark, let's get on with it.
All right. Can you restart my time since I had to explain that for your benefit?
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so what I want to speak about is something that we're starting to see pop up in our schools, and we're starting to see it pop up in local, national, and state government, as well as different corporations requiring training on it. And that topic is critical race theory. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that I think people need to be educated on it and understand it before they see it show up at their schools, at their jobs, etc. And just basically understand the root of it, what it actually represents, and what you'll be told that it represents. So that way people can choose to go and look into it further on their own and make a determination of what they're being told, whether it's true or not. But basically what I want to explain is that our children, even here in the Poudre School District, are being taught a Marxist ideology, which is critical race theory. It is based on critical theory, which was essentially the root of Marxist revolution in several Eastern European countries. And the idea is that you need to educate the public and create a clear definition of an oppressed group and a group of oppressors. Now, typically this was done by saying that one group of people was wealthy while another group of people was having their wealth extracted. However, in the United States, we have very good class mobility, and anybody who is willing to work, put in an effort, network, however they can come up if they absolutely want to do that. So the whole class divide does not work. However, in the United States, we've had racial tension in the past, and that is the device that's being used to divide us and pit us against each other. And if anybody doesn't think that's been happening, they haven't been watching the news in the last year. So I'll basically state it that critical race theory teaches that white people are oppressors and that any minority, whether it be gender, sexuality, or race, is an oppressed group. And if you speak to your children, you may find that they are teaching things such as equity and equality, which I had spoke on previously, and that they are basically trying to show that white people are the cause of all problems and that minorities have to fight against them. So I just want people to be able to look into that and see if what I'm saying is true. Don't go out and just find one source. Don't take it for granted that your kid's school or a job is not going to push these ideas on you, and go out and find out for yourself. Thank you.
Sir, very much. Who's next?
We have no other hands raised at this time.
We'll close the virtual part of this meeting and bring it back to the chambers. Any people wishing to come up, talk about non-agenda items, please come on up one at a time, state your name and address, and they'll give you 3 minutes.
Christine Gator, 8132 4th Street. I wanted to talk about a solution for the base water rate, which is essentially a tax. And I know that it's not really a tax because Tabor does not allow you guys to raise our taxes without putting it on the ballot. But I know there's loopholes, so you call it a fee, but essentially it is a tax. The definition of a tax, according to the dictionary, is a charge usually of money imposed by authority on persons for public purposes, or a burdensome or excessive demand, a strain. So I believe that the water-based rate is straining our citizens, especially the poor, the ones on fixed income. The problem is it's the same amount for all citizens. So those who make $1,000 a month and those who make $10,000, $5,000 a month, the $66 is not an equal proportion of what they make. And so it's unfair and it's causing burden on our lower income families. So I propose that either we do the tier rate, get rid of the base rate altogether and just increase the tier rate so that people can actually decide that they want their bill to be less, and so they use less, and we get charged based on what we use. Or I came up with another solution of a multiplier. So let's say the average in Wellington is 7 units that people use. Let's just pick a multiplier of 9.5. So if you do the 7 units that they used times 9.5, and you get $66.50. That could be that person's base rate for that month, something like that, just so that it's proportional and fair according to what they use. Because right now it's not fair. It's equal, but that doesn't make it fair because it's not proportional to people's budgets. So I wanted to say that. And then I just wanted to say that It seems very unfair that you guys raised our rates in December and you have not raised the businesses' base rates yet, nor have you raised the developers. And I know you're doing that tonight, hopefully. But I want in the future for the sewer base rate that you raise the businesses and the developers first before you raise the citizens. Because you guys represent us. You're supposed to be out there for our best interests, and it really feels like you're not. It feels like you're for the businesses and the developers because you're putting them before us. You raise our rates first. 6 months later, you still haven't been talking about the businesses and raising their rates. So it's a little concerning. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, we've got a long way to go, so if we can keep the clapping down for a little bit till we get through all this, okay? Maybe we get to the end, we can have one of those, huh? All right, no, believe me, we're working on all these issues. I know it doesn't seem like it, but there's a lot going on and we're ferreting through, and we want to hear everybody's opinions because they're important. They absolutely are. And solutions is what we want. So come on up.
Hi, I'm Dawn Burkhart at 6974 Lee Street. So I want to just basically touch on the water of how it's personally affected me. So I'm a single mom of 3. 2 of my kids are adopted. 1 child is a meth baby out of Larimer County. One of my other children that is not adopted is a DHS case where my daughter's best friend got taken away through the summer, and I chose to take care of her. I also have 2 Down syndrome clients that live with me. My water bill was $259 this month. I have lived in Wellington for 15 years, and I am just completely flabbergasted. Currently in my home, I've shut all of our toilets off, and I go and flush each toilet periodically through the day. No one's allowed to flush our toilet because it's going to overuse it. My teenagers don't do their laundry anymore because teenagers don't fill the washing machine enough. I mean, I make decent money for a single mom, and I can't imagine what other moms in this town, I mean, it's affected me, and I'm making a moderate income. I haven't watered my lawn yet. My bill's going to be $400 this month if I start watering my lawn, easily. And there's no public assistance like LEAP can help people with their heat. There's no water assistance for anyone. And so people are this is going to be really bad, because what's going to happen when this town and they can't pay their bill and you shut people's water off and they have kids there? Or we rack up such bills that we have to pay for other citizens that can't afford it. You know, it's alarming. And I think that we need to take into consideration that this town, we can't handle these bills. I mean, next month, I'm going to probably end up calling the town if it's more than $260 and saying, I need a payment plan. So I think we need to change some things and think about other people when we make those changes.
Thank you, ma'am, for that.
Hello, my name is Clayton Graves. My address is 3255 Thundering Herd Way. And so we've heard a lot of people talk about the water and what's going on with that. And I don't have anything new to add on that front, but I would like to point out one thing. She just mentioned her bill going up and avoiding flushing her toilets and avoiding doing laundry and all this other stuff. And the way that you guys have this rate hike going, that doesn't actually save her much money. I mean, she's paying that extra money before she even turns on her tap. And you guys are talking about, you know, needing this, raising this hike because you need money for this. And there's a thing on the ballot about medical marijuana. You guys need money that bad, tax that. I mean, citizens are saying that we don't want marijuana in the town, and I don't know who they're fooling, but it's already here. You're fooling yourself if you think it's not. If you want money that bad, you can make revenue off of that and take some of the burden off of us. So really what needs to happen is that rate hike needs to be rolled back at the very least. And this sewer hike that you guys are talking about needs to not happen. We can't afford this.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks.
Anyone next?
It's just real quick. My name is Ken McKenzie, 3733 McKinley Avenue. Seem to remember that it was brought up that there was going to be a town hall meeting on the whole water issue. I just want to know if that's actually going to happen. If you guys can give us a date or tell us, yes, it is going to happen.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I provide the date for that, Mayor
Sure.
Hamman? So for the town hall, that will be coming up on, I believe, let me make sure I have the right date here. I think it's the 26th, which is Wednesday. So Wednesday, the 26th, it will be at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. right here in the Leaper Center. So that will be talking about the sewer rates that we're looking at. So that will be the town hall.
My name is Margaret McKenzie. I live with Ken at the same address, and I'm glad you're going to have a town hall meeting, but this venue doesn't hold very many people. Have you looked into maybe the school gym or some other venue so that everybody who wants to come can come?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've thrown ideas like that around, especially even for the comp plan. So
Yeah,
it's
I
not
think it's
necessarily off
really
the board.
important.
But right now, I'm glad to see this.
Yeah.
Finally, this is the most we've seen in a year.
Well, if you have a town hall meeting on water, I'm sure you'll get a lot more people.
Okay.
And so I don't know, but you need to be able to provide for all those people to speak. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up?
My name is Tara Coe, and I live at 3271 Mammoth Circle. I support everything that's been said tonight, and actually want to touch back on the 90,000 that hasn't been collected since the rate was increased for our developers and their tap fees. Our raise went into effect immediately. We've all been paying outrageous bills for months now. There's money just sitting there. What are we getting out of these houses being built here if they're not helping pay for our infrastructure, if they're not actually making the citizens who already live here lives better? Mayor Hamman, I don't get the feeling that you're open to this. You have been combative. You don't sound, you're nah. This is a real issue for Wellington. I've been here for my whole life.
Mhm.
And $250 for a water bill? People can't afford this, and we shouldn't have to carry this load. We didn't get our town to this position. The developers and the board over the years have. This should not be passed on to us at all. Get these people that want to move here, that want to build here, to pay these fees. It is pretty basic. The marijuana store, that's a lot of money in revenue. We're being raked over the coals when the money's just 90 grand. You don't even seem concerned. We're concerned, and I have a feeling the longer this goes on, the more of us you're going to see. Thank you for your time, and have a good night.
Thank you, ma'am. And to that, we are very concerned about the $90,000. And we are very concerned about the bills for everyone. And it's not pretty, it's not nice, it's ugly. And we're doing everything we can. And it's not over. We're still looking for more areas. We're still being as innovative as we can, including talking to lobbyists. So we're not done with this issue. It's going to go on for a while till we get it figured out. And we will circle back with our administration and see what we can do about helping families out there in major dire need like the one we just heard from. And if I sound like I'm not sensitive enough, I do apologize. We've been busy working on this diligently, this board, this administration, for over a year, hammering it out, beating up. Come on up, absolutely. No, I'm talking about the water rates and the rollout. The $90,000 was a mistake that got through, and believe me, it will not happen again, and we're gonna circle back and get that. I mean, it just happens. It happens in business. We manage a $60 million budget. Some things don't happen correctly, but we're raising those rates. And that's coming. So believe me, developers are gonna be paying their share. So if anyone's next, we'll hear from them.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Lori Wiedemann. I live at 3923 Grant Avenue. I would like information on where to find the rules and regulations, basically on our meetings, how we conduct business, what you guys follow, the standards, if they're the standards. I want to know, I want access to that. So I understand people feel like certain things haven't been followed through with. Things aren't brought up, things are dropped, never picked back up. You have to go to court to have something that petitions were presented, things are dropped. So I feel like we need to know what's being followed and what we can do to make sure we go through the right channels without having to go to court. So I have not seen it on our town website where our rules or how we present something that we want on the agenda or more access to what you guys meet. There are things that we don't get information from that you meet to privately, and I understand business is business. I've been on boards before. So, but I want access to your rule book.
Absolutely, Lori. We can help you out with that. We'll get with our administrator, our attorney, and get something figured out so we can pass it around. Okay.
I'm sorry, have the people that have been standing at the podium been signing in at the podium?
Where?
That's a reason as well why we have collect your name and address so that our clerk can be sure and get back to you. So,
Well, mail's not delivered at my house.
well,
so my
if you
address-
don't mind, if we can get your email address and phone number, if you wouldn't mind just leaving it with our clerk, and we can
That would be my
get you in
pleasure.
touch with our operating documents.
Lori lives across the street.
Yep, good neighbor.
Just as a quick announcement, our town website has a myriad of resources, including the complete municipal code for the town of Wellington. So that indicates how the board members become board members, frequency of elections, all those kind of things, so down to everything relating to code for the town of Wellington. It also has a section, and our website's easier to navigate than ever right now because there's been a huge push to improve the navigation of our website. It's easy to find everything at this point. The other part is the boards and commissions is one of the major links, and that has an input form where you can input questions, concerns to the board, get information on all of us who serve on the board, and so much more. So take a look at our town website and everything that you mentioned so far is available currently already on the website. So please look at that, but we would
Okay,
love to get you more information as well.
I'll go through it again and I'll maybe print it out so that.
Oh, we'll get you information too, Lori. Tim was also a neighbor. We'll make sure we get it to you.
I appreciate it.
Thank
guys.
you very much.
Thank you.
And anyone else who needs that.
My name's Dave Wiegand. I live at 7,000 Pettigrew Street in Wellington. And my question is, are you guys going to put a moratorium on new construction here? If we don't have the water, why are we allowing more construction to go on? If you leave or let more construction go on, we're going to have our water rates keep going higher and higher. We got to have some good management here. We got to have, we got to find more water before we can start allowing more of this stuff to go on. I mean, it's any other place, any other business, you got to look at all sides out there. You can't just let it go. I mean, I know the tax dollar is good. And guess what? You know, our high water bills are taxes right now. A lot of people move out here because they think it's a reasonable place to live. It ain't going to be reasonable anymore. You know, when you start factoring in that, I mean, can you imagine what's going to happen to our property values out there? That may be a little guilty or greedy on my side, but any place you live, you definitely want to be able to sell your place. And if you have property or the water keeps going like it is, think people's going to move out here? I mean, $250 just to flush your toilets? I mean, give me a break, guys. We got to start looking at it, got to look at it seriously. I mean, it's just, I know you guys are good. You guys are trying to do what's right. But we can't ignore the problem. We can't bend over to the developers. I know a couple of the developers, they're good guys. I like them. But guess what? If we can't do it in this town, we can't do it. We got to back off until we figure out what the heck to do. Okay, appreciate the time.
But Dave, thanks for bringing those points up real quick, sir. You know, just real quick, guys, we have slowed the growth here in the last 3 years. We've got projections and we're down to less than 2%. That's
Okay,
pretty,
but should we even have any at the moment?
they're kind of already in place. So you got
I
to
mean, any
spread that
more
out.
from beyond what's happening
And-
right now.
We
Sir.
certainly
I mean,
can't
I-
take any more than that, that's for sure.
Mayor.
Yes.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
With all due respect, we do have to have a small amount of growth to be able to pay for some of the
Oh,
the
yeah.
growth. That way it doesn't fall completely on the fee
Are we
payers.
looking at commercial growth?
I do
I'd
believe
say
that this
that's where
board
the
is
biggest-
looking at commercial growth, and I think that we're asking good questions about the type
Mhm.
of growth that's
Right.
coming into the community. But some of the things that we're seeing coming in today were planned years ago. And what this board is trying to do is set this community up for in the future so it doesn't continue to be a problem.
And I understand that, but if the past didn't plan properly, should we be stuck in the same situation? Okay, we have to be flexible enough where we can change on a fly. If we see a problem, you combat the problem. You just don't accept it and say, hey, it happened, we got to do it, whatever. I mean, you got to be smart on this stuff. I mean, again, it's just like any business out there. You guys are a business too. And, you know, and these are our clients, okay? We got to take care of our clients. And if you ain't got the clients there, if they all start moving out, you ain't going to have a business left. So, I mean, it's all goes around. And, you know, we got to be concerned about it.
We are, sir. We're trying hard.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your points. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
Good evening, trustees. My name is Mario Quinones, 4101 Crintonton Lane. I think what meetings like this offer is a paradigm shift, actually several paradigm shifts, solving really big problems in our town toward an approach that focuses on empowering people from the bottom up to act on their unique gifts and contributions to the lives of others. The concept of paradigm shifts comes from the philosopher of science, Thomas Kuhn. He wrote that major transformations are inaugurated by a growing sense that an existing paradigm has ceased to function adequately. A growing number of people in our town would agree that the current approach is not functioning adequately, to say the least. But it's not enough to reject the status quo. Kuhn also wrote that to reject one paradigm without simultaneously substituting another is dangerous. My experience tells us that we need to change our paradigms in at least 3 important ways. First, just because there's a big problem doesn't necessarily mean there's a big solution. In fact, most of the toughest issues cannot be addressed by a one-size-fits-all solution. And the more we try, the more we find ourselves with a giant square in our hand, looking at a sea of small round holes. Instead of looking for one big answer, we all must look for many right-size answers. Second, people aren't problems to be solved. They are often the solution or the source of the solution, and the closest to the issue are best suited to address it. The world needs experts, no doubt, but a little local knowledge and lived experience goes a long way, and a lot of humility is good to keep on hand when mandating fixes from a distance. Third, unite with anybody to do right. When times get tough, as these times are right now, it's tempting to retreat to your corner, to your team, to your tribe, to start to play the blame game, us versus them. Yet this limits how much we can do and guarantees almost all that all of our challenges we face will not be met. We can achieve more together, even especially when we unite with those who think differently and bring different capabilities to the task at hand. When you shift your paradigm in these ways, the entire world looks different and we see opportunities. What people see as impossibilities, we see as opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Appreciate it, sir. Anyone else would like to come up?
Gary Green, 8130 3rd Street, the Wellington Fire Protection District. And so far into tonight, I want to bring you guys a little bit of sunshine. As Teddy Roosevelt, my favorite conservative, my favorite president, stated that we need to pay attention to the man in the arena. And all of you guys are the man in the arena. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of courage to run for office and to set up here, get dirty, get sweaty, get bloody, and address the greater good of this community. So I thank you guys for being the man and women in the arena for our community.
Thank you, sir. You guys want to clap on that a little bit? Oh, just one for me, would you?
Hi, my name is Jessie Andreen. I live at 3814 Hackberry Street. Yeah, kind of going along with that, I appreciate you guys. I feel like, I don't want you to feel like you're our enemies, and we do appreciate all that you do. So I just wanted to bring up a couple of things that I've noticed recently in our community. I've talked to quite a few residents that had no idea that our town has meetings at all, or that we have a comprehensive plan. And so if we can get the word out to our residents that there's things happening, I think that'd be amazing. Just, I don't know I know postcards and things can get expensive, but if maybe you could go out and tell more people, or just kind of spread the word through your community, I think it's really important. So, we've also kind of talked about having like our Hudson Cane banner that was on I think there was a banner on the skate park, something like that, where we can just explain like the town trustees meet every second and fourth Tuesday, or public is welcome, just to get the word out. I think that would be awesome. And then also I emailed the mayor and Patty Garcia about a town cleanup that I've started. And so I wondered, I really appreciated your responses. And Trustee Whitehouse, I appreciated you being willing to be a part of that. That's awesome. But Patty, I kind of wondered, so you had spoken about how you can't like sponsor us because then you'd have to sponsor everybody. And I get that. But I do feel like this effort benefits the whole town, not just a group of people. So I wondered if it would be possible to have just like one, so we do it the first Saturday of each month, just to have maybe one town employee from Wellington transport the trash in a town truck, or something like that. I know that might not be possible, but we have amazing volunteers that have been consistent and faithful, and they've done a lot of work cleaning up a lot of trash. And I know that it's fine if it just stays a volunteer effort, like totally get it. But if that's something that we could somehow work into town stuff, I think that would be really helpful.
So I had a question for you, Ms. Andreen. I know we have our Community Activities Commission oversees a lot of the things in the community. If this was something that the Community Activities Commission was willing to take on as something that they handle, is that something that you would be willing to be a part of?
Excuse me, Trustee Gator, but if you go back in the record, actually, the town has a proclamation cleanup day scheduled every year for March, or no, I'm sorry, May.
It's biannually, I think.
the year or the week before or the week after Mother's Day. And in the CAC budget, because of that Proclamation Day, I think that they have in the past reserved funds for a community cleanup.
Yep, it's,
So I
it's on the
think
calendar.
that-
I do think it's a, sorry. I do think it's a biannual cleanup. I've heard that, but I don't feel like it's enough. Just because our town is so windy and there's just trash everywhere. You know what? I feel like as Wellingtonians, we should really want to have the best small town in the state, you know, and I want our pride to shine through. So if that's possible, I understand money is hard, but we have volunteers that are willing to, you know, donate a truck once a month or, so I just, if that's possible, I'd be so appreciated. But just thought I would mention that because our town is awesome and we have a lot of people that are willing to help. And so just wanted to mention that. But
Yeah, I think
thank you
that'd be
guys.
a good thing for the CAC to
Yeah.
partner up with you on. I mean, because then that kind of not directly says the town of Wellington is going to sponsor it, but if the CAC takes it on as one of their, then it's kind of the around the corner.
Send me an email and I will pass your information on to the chair of the CAC, and then you can contact him about if he'll let you speak at the next meeting.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for your help on all that. Really appreciate it. Come on up, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, Callie from Main Street actually planned this. There was one scheduled, it was just postponed because of the weather. But Callie from Main Street is the contact.
Right.
Townwide cleanup. It's not a CAC thing, she plans it and it's.
Hey, Melanie, could you come speak into the microphone?
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry. I was just trying to clarify that Callie from Main Streets actually plans this and she had something already set up. So I was just trying to clarify that she's the contact person for the townwide cleanup, if that's something
Right.
that anybody's interested in looking into.
Yep, we'll follow up with her too.
Thank you. Thank you. People will benefit from that. That's why I wanted to hear it online. That cleanup day was actually delayed because of, the most recent one was delayed because of the weather. So the opportunity is going to come
It
up
happens in
again.
May.
Yeah.
It's always been a problem in May when we were doing it. Okay, anyone else? All right, we'll close the pub.
One more thing.
All right, sir.
Really quick, okay? You got my name. I'm been a business member with Realities for Children for 20 some odd years now. And one of the things that we do, well, the main thing they do is help abused kids. And I know right now, because of the legalized marijuana, all that stuff going on now, and the extreme use of drugs, Fort Collins is disgusting right now. We all talked about how beautiful our town is and we want to keep it that way. I got a nephew that's a cop out in Portland. And since they've let their place go to hell now, you wouldn't believe it.
I bet.
And I'd hate to see Wellington become like that. Tent cities, trash, garbage all over. And keep that in mind. I don't think it's in your control right at the moment.
I don't think it ever will be, sir. It's going to go referendum to the people.
Right, but don't encourage it.
Well, I don't
I mean,
think-
if
no,
we
this is
got to
not a-
depend on that, that's, how do you say it, living with the devil there.
Right. No,
Right.
We're not the ones pushing it. that's for sure.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, guys. I'm gonna close the public comment at this time, and I really appreciate all the stuff you're bringing forward. Believe me, we are working on these water bills. And we're not done with them, okay? I know they're hard. We're gonna find ways of dealing with it. And we're paying for them too. We don't like that. And we're just not done. And we're gonna keep we're gonna keep working on it. And we're not gonna kick this can down the road either when it comes to major infrastructure problems this town needs to deal with. So we're gonna handle it, okay? And we'll keep talking about it. We'll keep working on it. Just keep coming back. All right, let's go ahead and resume our very good meeting.
Mayor Hamman?
Yo.
We actually do have one more hand raised on.
We closed the virtual meeting. We got one, or is it it, or we got a line up?
We have one.
We got time for one more.
Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Okay, thank you for confirming. This is Jeff Schofield. I live at 7335 Kit Fox Drive. And I just wanted to take a few moments to bring up, a few concerns to your attention. There's been obviously a lot of construction going on. I live in Viewpoint on Kit Fox, and we've opened up the south end of Kit Fox with new construction, that neighborhood. And I have concerns because I have kids. So opening up the south end of Kit Fox has turned a family and child-friendly neighborhood for us into a dangerous situation. And it's just a matter of time, before somebody gets killed on Kit Fox. So it's not safe for the kids to bicycle anymore. We have vehicles going 50 and 60 miles an hour down Kit Fox. I'm honestly amazed that the house at the south end of Kit Fox, hasn't been T-boned into yet. So I want to bring that to your attention, and a couple of things I'd like you guys to consider. I'd like to see some speed limit signs at the put up at the south end of the Kit Fox. I think that's crucial. We need to consider some stop signs on Kit Fox between Jefferson and the south end. I'd like to see a minimum of 3 somewhere along there to slow that traffic down. Make it a family-friendly neighborhood like it was, 25 miles an hour speed limit. If we have to put in stop signs to make it slower for them to go around, to go through the neighborhood, and it's faster to go around, I think we need to channel that traffic, with that strategy to the main arteries. And to the extent we can pass that along to the sheriff's office and get some better police enforcement along Kit Fox, like I see in, some of the other artery streets to the eastern side of the tracks, that would also, I think, help. I appreciate if you would, kind of take that into consideration and see what you'd be able to, to help over time, help make that a safer neighborhood like it used to be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll get on that and follow back. We had the sheriff here as well. We got our public works director here as well, too. And maybe it's a development thing. I don't know. We'll find out. Thank you. Okay, that closes the public portion of the comment tonight for non-agenda items. So let's move on. Next item is going to be a presentation on the Parks and Recreation Quarterly Update.
Mayor, Board of Trustees, can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'll go ahead and jump into things. I'll make sure I keep it precise and accurate, just out of respect for all the agenda items. So from a holistic standpoint within Parks and Rec, I work with my leader, Kelly, to look at our current structure and figure out what makes most sense. So ultimately what we did is decided on a structure to get rid of the Parks and Recreation Director and add more boots on the ground, for lack of a better term, to support the growth within Wellington and our programs, and be able to save the town some money. I think it was about $20,000. So pretty satisfied with the structure that we came up with, and moving forward, it will benefit us in the long term. From a cost recovery standpoint, right now we're working with the consultant, and we're into the halfway point in. We got all the data necessary to put into the new analytics software. So after that point, what we're going to be working on coming into the next 2 weeks here is the beneficiaries of services workshop with the town staff. And then after that point, be able to really look at the data within the new software system to show us exactly what our costs are for programs, running parks, and what have you. Another big piece holistically that I've been working on is the partnership piece. So I had a meeting with Boys and Girls Club, Colorado Youth Outdoors, Poudre School District, and Wellington Soccer Club. And all of those organizations are bought into supporting our youth within the town. And ideally, the partnership in understanding some of the first drafts that I've created surrounds facility usage, making sure that we're supporting one another for a better rate. And ideally, we use each other's facilities for free because we are supporting the youth within the town of Wellington. So ideally by next quarter, I'll be able to have something solidified. That's the final draft, but those are working drafts as we move forward here. Another big piece within this quarter is working with Colorado Parks and Recreation Association, developing a talent pipeline for not only seasonal staff, but also full-time staff. And what that means specifically is to be able to get professional development for our part-time staff and full-time staff to make them better professionals within their career, and also making the town of Wellington a place to come work, specifically surrounding parks and recreation, just due to our strategy. Moving into more of the recreation specific. So right now, I'm negotiating better user fees within our current software, ActiveNet. It's the software we utilize for registration. Ideally, as we move forward within the cost recovery, it does look like that RecTrack, or I'm sorry, not RecTrack, but Smart Rec with Amelia, that is another software system. They'll be able to provide us better fees, and also it's a better system. So still negotiating fees on that end, but there will definitely be a cost savings. In terms of standard operating procedures, we're documenting standard operating procedures and also training staff in the most effective and efficient manner. This surrounds all of our assistant recreation coordinators, our rec coordinators, and also our parks technicians, seasonal park technician 2s and park technician 3s. We've come up with a strategy that not only is effective in terms of workload, but also be able to support having that data in relation to when we come into the next year of really seeing the holes of where we need support, specifically surrounding equipment and maybe potential staff depending on where we're at. And then I guess the last piece specifically dedicated to parks, kind of a high level overview. So as of right now, we're going through getting all of our play structures inspected, and also getting a couple of our staff members and play structure inspector certified. As I was going through that process, it is a pretty pricey process in terms of bringing a contractor out here. So we're going to be getting our staff certified, which is a good cost savings mechanism long term, and to have people on staff supports our ability to mitigate any risk. Also another big piece of this is working on the CIP projects coming up here in May, and working with the PAB to determine those different pieces and whatnot. So that's kind of a high level overview I wanted to express, and be open to any questions.
Any questions for Dean?
There seems to be a ton of great progress, so it sounds awesome. You may not know this, but Trustee Whitehouse and I actually worked on a project previously to build the tot lot out by the ball fields. So if you ever need any volunteers to work on the play structures, that was incredibly fun. So I volunteer to do that again. But thank you for the update. It sounds like we're doing fantastic in the Parks and Rec side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I might express, there was some conversations with the PAB and looking at, some of the upgrades that we'll be working on and having some volunteers. So I will definitely keep you all in the loop in regards to that.
Anyone else? Dean, just real quick here, we're getting enough notice out to the folks that of any programs or sign up programs and that sort of thing, or, contact personnel that people need for lights at night, all that's being taken care of, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So any of our user groups that come in within our current contract that we have, if they do rent the fields, there is an option for them to utilize the lights with a fee associated with it. So we are doing that as we move forward here. Absolutely.
Okay, Dean, thank you very much. Keep us updated. All right, let's move on. This is next one. We have a Wellington Public Library quarterly report.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, trustees, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, public at large. My name is Ross Lajeunesse, and I too will keep this brief out of respect for the large agenda. I only really have positive and good news. And as a resident also of Wellington, I wanted to say personally, thank you for what you do as a board. It is not easy. Now I'll put my town hat back on. Everything that we do and have been doing we take right back to our mission statement. It keeps us accountable. Is it for the community? Are we providing connection? And finally, does it foster curiosity? So we have a lot of good news. We've been hard at work as well. First, we did have a successful and largely supported reopening for indoor public patronage. I do have some slides. And well, they're pictures of, we went with simple signage that we created so that they stood out. We are continuing to use curbside, which gives patrons the ability to stay outdoors if they'd like to. We have gone through and we have consistent and easily readable signs within the library. It promotes exploration and self-sufficiency. We have changed the font so they help people that have dyslexia, and they are all consistent. We have changed our hours that reflect the residents' needs. We have a lot of working families, we have a lot of students, so we are staying open later so that they can get to the library. We've redesigned our website. It's user-friendly, it's much easier to navigate. It is optimized for mobile use. People do use their mobile phones. We see them in the school lines waiting to pick up their kids. We have developed a local matters section in the library. It's in alignment with the strategic plan and local matters, sustainability, water usage. So we've tried to make things very user-friendly within the library. We have an increase in new patrons in our circulation. In our interlibrary loans, we have more libraries borrowing from us, which is great cooperation. And it means that we are expanding our media and inclusive materials. We've had really good feedback. I have taken a major focus on collaborating with the community. I think a lot of people are getting to know me. I'm all over town. We are working hand in hand with local businesses, the schools in town, clubs, Boys and Girls Club as well, and working hand in hand with the town of Wellington departments like Parks and Rec. We're a natural fit. We have developed an ongoing partnership between Wellington Public Library, Liberty Common High School, and the CSU Engineering Department for a robotics program and engineering program. It directly supports STEM, and it is gauged for all ages, youth to adult. We are going to be having robotic demonstrations in the parking lot with an award-winning robotics team. The high school students are actually in charge of the events. They are planning them, they are leading them, so they have immediate buy-in and they connect to the youth of Wellington. There is oversight between the instructor and myself, so there are no mistakes, but they are taking charge. And CSU is hand in hand with us, the engineering department. We also have the recruiting department from CSU coming. So it is a youth to adult program. So the students that have interest in engineering can see a future at a university level, and CSU is there to support it. In complement to the engineering and the STEM programs that we're launching, we were able through the Friends of Wellington. So when residents buy books in the bookstore, those funds are nonprofit and they are shared with the library. And we were able to secure a 3D printer. Many libraries have them, schools have them. We will have our own, which goes hand in hand with our engineering and STEM programs. So we do thank the residents that come in and buy books and media from the bookstore. It helps and it goes straight to the library. So you will now have access as residents to 3D printing. CSU has offered to help us set it up, calibrate it, and help us with the software. All the software is free. So we're very excited. That is being shipped right now from overseas, so it should be in soon. Our summer reading program has launched. We had a huge increase in local sponsorship with local businesses. We do ask that you support those businesses. It's on our website. They have been very generous after a very hard year. And it means a lot to us at Wellington Public Library that residents and business owners have helped us so much. We did early registration this year. We are coordinating with the local elementary and middle schools with the program. We're partnering with the Wellington Boys and Girls Club. They will be participating and we will be serving their needs as well. We expanded our inclusion to adult readers this year. We are really asking adult readers to model literacy for their children. And we have prizes and events aimed towards adults as well. So it's a family program. Our events have been secured with contingencies in place. In case of weather, we aren't going to lose our money. We will be refunded the money. I am always looking at the budget. And finally, on that note, I'm always looking at the budget. We are in accordance and fiscally within the parameters of our budget and all of our lines. So it's all good news. And that is my presentation. And if you have any questions, concerns, I'm here.
So Ross, thank you. First off, I did want to just start by thanking you for the excitement and energy that you have about the library. It gets me excited about the library. So thank you for that.
A little less at home.
So the first question I had is, when will we start seeing those robotics things come out or events?
So right now, the high school students, they actually went to state and they won state. So now they are competing internationally. And because they are high school students, they are right in the middle of finals. And so I do have to wait until after finals. They are extremely excited. They excite me, but I do have to wait till they are done with finals. We are looking at summers and we are kind of actually shooting for doing Sundays in the parking lot of the Wellington Public Library. Outdoors. They are actually bringing their entire systems, 2 of them, to do battle bots with the kids and let the kids actually drive the robots. And they have other things that they'd like to do, of course, in accordance with our guidelines, Legos and building bridges. And so we are going to do those. We are shooting for Sundays in the parking lot.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ross. I'm excited for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I love to hear about all the support that the community has given the library recently, especially with the businesses as well. I know that that collaboration is a direct result of your leadership. So I wanted to thank you for that, for sure. And then I have a quick story about robotics. My brother started and did BattleBots at Pooter, and even younger than that.
And he's now a very successful drone operator for a major company. So those kind of things definitely pay off, and it's cool to see kids get an introduction to those kind of industries. So thank you for giving that opportunity to the Wellington kids and adults.
You're welcome. I got the chills too thinking about it.
Okay, no one else. Thank you, Ross. Look forward to seeing the robots. Let us know. We'll be there.
I definitely will. Have a good
Okay.
evening.
You too. All right, we're moving on. Looks like we have a proclamation tonight. This proclamation is about Police Week, which I'm happy to report on. Right on my way here tonight, we saw our Sheriff Raridan had a person pulled over in the mud right off the bat, right out here. He didn't, should have stayed on the road. I might have made him pull out, but yeah, you did good. Okay, so I'll read this proclamation with a lot of pride. National Police Week, May 9th through the 15th, 2021. Whereas in 1962, the President of the United States designated May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas there are more than 800,000 sworn law enforcement officers now serving in the United States, including the dedicated members of the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. And whereas it is important that all residents know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that the members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence, disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the town of Wellington desires to honor the valor, service, and dedication of our law enforcement professionals, it is therefore now I, Troy Hamman, Mayor of the town of Wellington, Colorado, do hereby proclaim the week of May 9th through the 15th, 2021 as National Police Week in the town of Wellington, and urge all fellow residents to salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community and the communities across the nation. Dated 11th day this month, 2021. Thanks, sir. All right, folks, thanks for standing up on that. Okay, moving on. Item C tonight. This is the consent agenda. This is for meeting minutes of the April 27, 2021 Board of Trustees meeting. Is there anything that we need to talk about here or bring up? If not, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of April 27, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Kenny,
Yes.
Trustee McConnell,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Okay. On to some action items finally. Let's get on to some action items here. Action item 1, D1. This is a resolution 10-2021. This is a resolution referring to the voters the question of whether sales of medical and retail marijuana should be allowed in the town of Wellington. Dan Sapienza will be talking about it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have before you Resolution 10-2021. This is a resolution that was in your packet on April 20th. And I'll be explaining here a lot of the background of how we got to this point of this resolution being in front of you. Also explain a little bit about that stipulation that was entered into last week, just to clarify for the board what this process has looked like. A little background here. There was a petition drive over the summer to get on the ballot in Wellington for last year, 2 ordinances. One was to put a sales tax, a special sales tax for marijuana consumption or for marijuana sales on the ballot. And the other was to overturn the ban on marijuana stores in the town of Wellington and also put those under the regulation of the local regulatory authority. Those were turned in on July 30th with 669 signatures, and on August 20th, 464 of those signatures were verified, which was more than enough to get both ordinances referred to the ballot. Only 351 were required. With Resolution 38-2020, the Board of Trustees referred the sales tax ordinance to the ballot, and that would be on this coming November 2nd ballot. That has to be on a general election ballot. It can't be a special ballot due to Tabor. So that one was very clear when that could be referred. The other ordinance, though it had sufficient signatures, there was a protest filed on September 8th. That led to a hearing on September 16th, and the hearing officer for that determined that the petition to put the sales tax, not the sales tax, the petition to put the sale of marijuana on the ballot was insufficient for two primary reasons. One was some of the language was administrative rather than legislative in nature. The other was that there was a failure to comply with a state ordinance requiring disclosure of how much was paid to petition gatherers. So for those reasons, the hearing officer said the petition was insufficient and it should not go on the ballot, which has led to litigation. There are two lawsuits filed against the town of Wellington. One is Prosperous Wellington versus Wellington, and the other is Morgan versus Wellington. These have been ongoing since late last year. They were filed in September and October of last year. And at this point, the real possible outcomes of that litigation: first, if the court determines that the hearing officer's determination was incorrect and that these ordinances should be put on the ballot, then the town of Wellington will have to put them on the ballot at a special election. Because of the time limits in state statute and in the Constitution, there's really no choice in that matter. So we'll have one special election that will be at the town's cost to put marijuana stores on the ballot. And then there will be the general election on November 2nd, 21 for the sales tax itself. So there'd have to be two ordinances. On the other hand, if the litigation results in the town being successful in defending the hearing officer's determination, the proponents of those measures will do it again. They'll go out and get more petitions, and this will be on the ballot sooner or later. So where we're at is we're in the middle of litigation and have to make a choice. So on the April 20th, at the April 20th board meeting, Brad March came before you and asked for authorization to enter into a stipulation with the other parties in both pieces of in both cases. So the motion that was before the board was to approve the town attorney signing the stipulation, settling the marijuana lawsuits. That stipulation is included in your packet here today. That has been filed with the court, and what it says is if the board accepts and adopts resolution 10-2021, which is before you today, which will put the ordinance allowing the sale of marijuana on the ballot in November 2nd, then both cases will be dismissed immediately. So that's the result of what you did at the last meeting. Whether any action is taken here today, definitely on the November 2nd ballot, there will be a sales tax measure. So what does resolution 10-2021 do? It submits to the ballot question of whether sales of marijuana, both retail and medical, should be allowed in the town of Wellington. It also creates a regulatory structure for how those applications will be submitted and how they're approved and how the town decides how those businesses will be regulated. There's some major differences here, though, with this ballot, or I'm sorry, this ordinance versus the one that was petitioned for by the proponents and what the litigation is all about. The original ordinance that was that the petitions were signed for had a lot of real significant flaws. It referenced state statute that has been obsolete for years. So then what it would have done is it would have tied the town of Wellington's regulation of marijuana to specific statutory provisions that simply didn't exist. It also had some conflicting language about the authority of various entities. So it was really unclear whether the local licensing authority would have had the authority to regulate businesses, or whether the state would, or whether anybody really would. And it also really limited local regulatory authority. So as part of the stipulation that was entered into on April 20th, the proponents have agreed to this revised ballot language on the ordinance that's in your packet that fixes those deficiencies. It does repeal two provisions in the town code prohibiting the sale of retail and medical marijuana. It allows the sale of retail and medical marijuana to consumers in marijuana stores in C3 zoning districts, and they can start submitting applications for those stores on February 1st, 2022. So if this is passed on the November 2021 ballot, there will be a few months for the local licensing authority, which is the town staff and primarily the clerk's office, to get those regulations in place before applications start being processed. Though they can only be operated in C3 zoning districts, they also have to be 2,000 feet from schools, 500 feet from public zones and other marijuana stores, and 200 feet from R1, R2, and R4 zones. The reason those numbers were included in here and the reason we included the C3 zoning district are those are exactly the zoning districts and distances that the proponents of the petition and the initiative asked for. So we really tried to keep the ordinance that's before you today or to put on the ballot. We tried to keep it as close to what they were asking for as possible. So this kind of kept a lot of those substantive issues, but changed the procedure and changed the regulatory process. Here's a zoning map, which I'm sure you've seen a lot of these over the years. The bright purple area that's along Interstate 25, here it is zoomed in a little bit if it'll ever get there. The bright purple or dark purple area, that's kind of the C3. So it's largely right along I-25. There's not a lot of C3 zones, but this is what the proponents of the ordinance asked for. This ordinance has some very specific local and state licensing requirements. It prohibits the transfer of these licenses without paying fees and additional applications. So really the town can control who's operating marijuana stores in the town. It restricts operations from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. So they can't operate outside of those hours. And it prohibits modification of this ordinance by the Board of Trustees until April 1st, 2023. So it gives about a year of operations before the board can come in and change these regulations. But after April 1st, 2020 or January 1st, 2023, the board can modify this as the town sees fit to make sure that the marijuana regulations fit with what the town's looking for. So for these reasons, our recommendation is to adopt resolution 10-2021 so we can get this lawsuit behind us and put this on the ballot. Questions do you have?
I'll start with you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sapienza, for putting this together for us. And I know we've been a long road on this, and regardless of what my personal opinions might be or not be on marijuana, I am very much a proponent that when the citizens of our town say that they want to see something, want the opportunity to vote on that, I believe that they should have that. I appreciate that we've been able to address some of the concerns that were brought up in the
original ordinance.
Yeah, in the original ordinances, the challenges to the original ordinances. And I'm glad we've been able to address those and find something that works for the proponents, and also it allows us to fix things to where they need to be. And so I, for one, regardless of personal feelings, I believe that we should give the citizens the opportunity to vote on what they've asked to vote for.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Whitehouse, anything?
Yeah, this has been a long road. I have to tell you that. I'm glad this has finally been cleaned up, and it's always been my opinion from the very beginning that this is far too important of a decision to be decided by 7 people in this room, and it's really up to the citizens. It's always been, I think that's, and what the citizens decide is what we will support. That's how the process works, and that's what we will do.
Trustee McDonald, anything? Trustee Kenny?
I agree with everything that's been said. This is such an important topic that it definitely needs to be weighed in on by every possible citizen who is able to vote on it. So that's why I would be in support of this going on to voters, of course.
Trustee Knudsen? Go ahead. Thank you, Dan. We'll open up to the public right now. Public would like to comment on, come up here and comment on this resolution. Come on up. State your name and address, and let's hear it.
Christine Gator, 8132 4th Street. Just to clear up some confusion that I heard in the general public comment. It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the sales tax is going to go into the general fund, and the general fund cannot fund the water treatment plant. Is that correct?
You know, I haven't even talked about what the taxes are and what to do with the money. We haven't even had those discussions yet.
Is that how it works?
We're not even there yet.
Well, I think that those tax collections can get really complicated, especially when you start involving Tabor. So I think that as we start to approach those, like the actual voting on it, that we can get some clarification from staff about how that resolution was adopted and the details within it instead of trying to pull it from the hip tonight, if that's okay with you. I think that that definitely warrants
Okay.
further conversation.
So it's in the ordinance, in the sales tax ordinance. You just don't know what it says. Is that what you're saying?
No, the collection of of the tax of the marijuana that would be approved in the fall, that's defined in that ordinance.
Those are also available on the Town of Wellington website, so you can read them in detail because they are indicated in there what exactly would be voted on. So my suggestion is, because I'm not familiar with all the exact wording, and of course, we can't make any decisions or plans if it's not passed. But it is within that item. So that is available on the Town of Wellington website if you'd like to view that in entirety.
I guess maybe I understood what her question was, maybe a little clarification. She's specifically asking if general fund funds can be used to fund water treatment plant or go into that fund. And I think that's something that our treasurer needs to answer. And I don't know if she's available. Okay.
But it's, with all due respect, it's not relevant to this agenda item. Can we bring it back? Like tonight is just about whether,
Yeah, we haven't even talked about what to do with money. I don't know what to do yet. I mean, I want to do whatever we can with it, absolutely. You know,
they're two separate discussions, and the funding requires a much more in-depth discussion. So tonight, like the agenda item that we're talking about is, should we even allow it at all? Like, are we going to open it up to the voters? So if it's okay, can we just stick to the agenda item?
Sure, absolutely we can, but we're gonna find out what we can do with the money if it comes to be, absolutely.
So it's not in stone, is what you're saying. In the ordinance, it doesn't say.
Haven't even had a
anything.
discussion about it yet.
Okay.
I personally have not. Don't know what to do with the money yet. Don't even know how much we're charging yet.
So we're not voting on which fund it goes into.
We're
is
not
what you're
voting on the
saying.
money tonight.
No, I understand that. Thank you.
So, but we'll come to that, absolutely, and have a discussion about that. You bet, because it's important. That's what it's about.
Christine, I think you dropped something.
Anyone else like to come up and talk about the referendum?
Hello, I am Melanie Murphy, 3584 Polk Circle East. Just wanted to tell you all, thank you very much. Sorry. Thank you for finally addressing this and making it so the voters can actually vote. That was all I wanted. I personally do not care how you choose to vote. I just want everybody to be able to vote. I don't want these 7 of you or your wives or your spouses or whomever to make that decision for everyone. So thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart for finally figuring this out.
Excuse me, Ms. Murphy. It has been said in social media that the protests were filed to take away the citizens' rights to vote on this, and that is factually incorrect. And I believe you should know that. The issue Melissa, my wife, had was the fact that it laid out administrative duties and took power that was granted to the town board by the state statutes and constitution. And that's what the issue was. She didn't care about that, but she felt that as it was written was not correct.
I did not come into this until I was made aware that there were 2 people that had filed protests to take away the rights of the voters, essentially.
That is incorrect.
Okay,
Well, Ms. Murphy, I do believe that this board shares the sentiment that this issue is important enough that it should not be made by this board, that it should be made by the voters. And that the entire conversation has been about making sure that the language going to the voters is in the best interest of everybody involved and not just the party submitting the petition. So I think that the intent this evening is to give everybody in the Wellington community their constitutional right to vote on whether or not they want this in the community. And that's it. That's all we're talking about.
that's it. All I want. I just want everyone to be able to express their own vote individually.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy.
That's
They're
it.
gonna get to, they're gonna get to. Come November. Appreciate it. You bet.
Just want to make sure that hopefully you guys have done your due diligence on this. You've checked with other communities, small, medium, and large, seeing how it's affected them, seeing how it's affected their budget, whether it's having a lot more law enforcement there And, checking out how it has affected the community through suicides and everything else. Okay. And like I say, some people say it's a gateway drug, whatever it is. All I know is I know a couple people personally that their kids have had a lot of people they know that have suicides, the friends that had suicides. So again, do your due diligence, make sure that people are educated on this, because so many voters out there have no freaking idea of what's going to happen and whatever. Oh, it sounds good. I grew up in the 70s, 60s and 70s, whatever back then. But now we're really seeing some of the effects of it. So again, do your due diligence, educate the community, let them see both sides of it. And I think that's part of what you guys, if you're going to put it on the ballot, you need to make sure that you get that out there too.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else care to come up, comment on this? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. There's no other comments. It's,
Mayor Hamman, I just
Yes.
have a final comment.
yes, let's hear it.
I was just wondering if, based on the conversation that we've had this evening, working back from the time period that's been set on the other initiative, can we put together a communication plan? Can we give that direction to staff to put together a formal communication plan for the board regarding these initiatives that address some of the needs and the concerns of the community about the information that they requested
You
this
mean a
evening?
timeline or pros and
Yes, a
cons?
formal communication plan regarding the,
Timeline of what has transpired? I don't follow. We can do whatever we want.
yes, I'll get with Patty.
Okay, yeah, I think, I don't follow, but absolutely we want to do as much as we can. Okay,
Do we have any online comments?
sure.
We have no hands raised at this time.
Oh, good. Thanks for bringing that up. Missed that.
I just want to make a comment that, I think a communication strategy is great, but my sense is that this would be a very neutral, that I don't believe the town is taking a side regarding whether anyone should vote one way or another, and providing only facts would that be the correct?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
great.
just on the, the difference between the two initiatives, that outlines Ms. Gator's concerns about what fund it goes into, and maybe some information from Judy about how those different funds can be used, the Water Enterprise Fund and the General Fund.
Absolutely.
That way, if we put together a communication plan, it tells the community when they can expect to receive information as we approach the deadline to vote on these important items.
I think it's great. Absolutely. Great idea. Okay. Anyone else? All right. Let's go ahead and put it to a vote.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 10-2021, a resolution of the Town Board of Trustees of the Town of Wellington, Colorado, referring a ballot question regarding the sale of medical and retail marijuana to the electors of the town at the November 2nd, 2021 election.
Second.
Yes.
Trustee Jerome?
Yes. Yes.
Trustee Kenny?
Yes.
Trustee McDonald?
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knutson?
Yes.
Mayor Hammond?
Yes. All right. Motion passed. Let's move on. Item 2, this is resolution number 11-2021. It's a resolution approving mandatory water restrictions. Bob's going to talk about it first. I guess not. Attorney or Bob?
Bob and I are both presenting on
Okay,
this
all right,
matter,
good.
so apologize for the
That's
confusion.
right, Dan. You're there too. I'm sorry.
I'm listed on there. So in front of you today is a ordinance for, excuse me, mandatory watering restrictions in the town of Wellington. This is very similar to an ordinance that was passed in 2020. There have been voluntary and mandatory watering restrictions in the town of Wellington since 2013, approximately every year or every other year. It looks like the couple years were missed. There have been these sorts of ordinances passed. The idea here is to restrict watering for odd and even houses to 2 days a week, depending on whether they're odd or even, and also restrict the date, or excuse me, the times that they can water. I looked around at local other municipalities in the area. Fort Collins right now only has voluntary restrictions, and though they're restricted at the times people can water, Denver and Colorado Springs are currently restricting the times people can water. So really narrowing the window of when they can put water on the lawn, because during the height of the day, that's when most of the water gets evaporated. So the idea here was where we have water problems, so put some mandatory restrictions on there, and people could be fined if the compliance officers decide to give them a summons. So we can talk about how that would go if you have questions on how that would operate. But Bob's got a lot more information on the actual specifics of the water capacity.
Evening, Mayor and trustees. Have a brief presentation on kind of the water side of this, which feel free to ask any questions as we go through this. It's pretty short, so if you have a question, shout out. So this was in your packet. It's just a little bit of background on water and conservation things. As most people know, a lot of the subdivisions in town have non-pot systems, and that's a great thing that a lot of other cities do not, but there are many others that don't. The use of treated water in the summertime dramatically increases due to irrigation, and we can show a little bit more about that here in a bit. The plant expansion projects currently underway, both are currently at the 30% design phase, as I think everybody knows, roughly double our capacity. Those are scheduled to come online in 2024. So when that happens, we'll have plenty of water for irrigation and for other purposes at that time. But for the next 3 summers, primarily, we're going to be sorely taxed to provide for water during these summer months. You know, the repercussions of not being able to meet peak demand on any particular day or any particular hour of any day during the summer are fairly severe. You'll see when we talk about what we've been producing to meet demand, we're running our equipment at very near capacity. As everybody knows, this equipment is old. It was, frankly, wasn't really designed that well originally. And so we're running a plant that takes a lot of repair and maintenance, and a lot of that happens on an emergency basis. So we're looking at another 3 summers of doing that. And we would, anyway, so exceeding the compliance requirements relative to meeting those peak demands can be severe. It could be states from violations with fines from the state, CDPHE. We could lose service to our customers if we're running too close to the max and something breaks, which happens every summer all year round at both of our plants. But also everything that we're talking about tonight relative to the water plant, we experience at the wastewater plant as well. You know, we've talked about the organic loading problems that we have at the wastewater plant. We also have a hydraulic loading problem over there too. That's why we have 2 plant expansions underway at the same time. Ideally, you might want to stagger those a little bit, but we're running both of these at the same time. So the next point is cheating me here. So you guys have seen this graph before, but I thought I'd throw it in here just as a reminder of this graph illustrates our monthly demand on a monthly basis for the last 5 years. And so that runs from 2017 to really through this year. So you'll notice that we have a number in there for April. The one on the far right, that 21.5 number, that's what we experienced in April. So really, the reason why I wanted to bring this up one more time was if you look at what happens during the irrigation months, the volume of water that we provide to our customers more than doubles. And more importantly, from a kind of a infrastructure point of view, is the peak rates more than double. So all infrastructure is designed for the max day or max hour situation. So everything we design is designed around that max instant during the year when we have to meet a particular design. So it would follow if we can reduce our max or peak demands that we could not have to invest in our infrastructure as soon and perhaps even downsize some of that infrastructure. So this is really just simply to, you guys have been seeing this for quite some time, but you see what happened to us last year. It was dramatic. In July and August, we had a peak monthly rate of 62 million gallons per month. That comes down to about 2.1 MGD, which is just getting real close to our max capacity. So that happened last summer. That was an eventful time for sure. So this graph, this was an attempt to show the timeline of the different conservation steps that the community took last year. And it basically runs from May through the end of August, kind of peak demand season. These little leaders coming off, they really just label the time when significant events happened in regards to water conservation. This first one, wastewater treatment plant non-pot off. That's our wastewater treatment plant uses quite a bit of water in the process. So it went off that time because we had to repair it and we had to make some improvements, which again is not uncommon. You can see that the next milestone was when the bulk water went off. The hydrant meters were pulled. That was the construction hydrant meters that we rent out to typically contractors use those. And then we posted the restrictions in mid-June. So moving on, we did get the wastewater treatment plant non-pot back on in mid-July and turned the bulk water back on late July. So it's hard to draw a whole lot of conclusions from this. You can see that when we posted the restrictions, this blue line just represents, again, those daily max flows. You can see it was pretty jagged. We had this really dramatic peak out here right before we turned the non-pot back on. But once people, I think, got their arms around the restrictions, and by the way, I forgot to mention, these yellow dots at the bottom, those are irrigation days. So you can see that towards the end of the year, really towards the end of July, the peaks that we have started to match better with the irrigation days. That was a good result from our point of view because it allowed our water demand to be a little bit more predictable throughout the summer. You can see how rough this graph is in the early part of the summer. And it's very helpful when you're running an older plant to be able to predict when those peak rates might occur. So I would point out that the little red boxes, there's 11 peaks on here that exceeded 2.25 MGD, million gallons per day. 10 of those happened after the restrictions were posted. In fairness, we had a wetter May last year. We had about 2.22 inches of precipitation in May, 1.15 in June. July was bone dry with 0.17 inches, and August was also bone dry at 0.20 inches. That's really not an appreciable amount of precipitation. So towards the end of last summer, I would say, hopefully we don't have that kind of year this year, But that, I think, kind of skewed this a little bit in terms of what you see. Any questions on that? Or?
On this graph here?
Yeah. that- Okay, I'll take that as a no. You guys have seen this graph before. This is basically from year 2010 to 2020. This is the peak daily demand that we experienced that year. It's the blue line, and the blue dots represent those peak demands again per year. And that's the flow rate that we have to design our infrastructure around. It's not average demand. It's not low demand, period demand. It's the highest demand in the year. That's the day that we have to make sure that we can supply water. So when you kind of put a best fit line through there, that black line that's down here by the blue part, that's basically a 6% line. So as we project this into the future, this best fit line, we've created 3 different growth curves or straight lines out here past 2020. And there's no 21 data on here because we haven't hit peak demand season yet. That green line is 6%, the purple line is 3%, and the orange line is 9%. So we really we're trying to kind of bracket the worst case. And maybe I should back up a little bit and remind you what these horizontal lines are. This solid red line, it's not truly horizontal. On the bottom is our current treatment capacity without the microfiltration plant. We have basically 4 water plants in this town. The conventional Floxed out at the main site location, the microfiltration out at the main site location, a nano plant and an RO plant. They're located over there next to REC, right over here. So the microfiltration unfortunately does not do much for taste and odor. So we try not to run that in the summertime. We do keep that capability in reserve. When and if we have to turn that on during the summer, we're likely to see increased taste and odor events when that happens. And that was really the end of my presentation. I did want to kind of point out a few things about conservation. As I mentioned earlier, we do have to design and operate and maintain around those peak rates. And water conservation is really one of the most significant tools we have in reducing those peak rates to extend the life of our infrastructure, to help our infrastructure be more reliable because we're not pushing it quite so hard. So that's why you keep hearing about water conservation from us. It's not because we're trying to modify anybody's behaviors, because this town needs some water conservation, because we're at capacity in these plants, and it's just really just that simple. So we've tried to grab as much of the low-hanging fruit as we could in terms of conservation. We do believe that the irrigation restrictions help with that, but you've also seen some more public education. We're working on those landscape standards, and there's a few other things that we're working on as well. So that's the end of my presentation. Any questions after that?
Questions on that side over there? Board members?
Yeah. From your experience, what is the effectiveness of voluntary versus mandatory watering restrictions for actually getting conservation, significant conservation?
I can't really answer that. We've had voluntary conservation methods in this town for quite a while, going back to 2013, I believe. Last year was the first year that we had something that we called mandatory. I would say that the town's focus at that point last year was kind of more on education, as we saw some of those perhaps wasteful practices, water running off into the street and down to the storm drain. Our code compliance officer and others might knock on the door and really just kind of explain why that's not in compliance with the mandatory restrictions, and also why it's not a good thing for the town moving forward. I don't believe that we wrote any citations or tickets last year. It's not our intention to write a whole lot of citations. But I feel like we managed that mandatory water restrictions pretty well last year. I honestly can't say how well it might have worked relative to voluntary, but I can say that it had some effect last year based on the numbers that we've collected and the analysis that we've done on those numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I got a question then. So Bob, this is immediately, this is drafted to be immediate, right?
Yes, I
Pretty
believe
soggy
it is.
out there
I'm
right
not sure
now.
what version y'all are looking at right now, but that was the intention.
Pretty soggy out there right now. We have a couple weeks. I mean, May, we're not in jeopardy in May, are we? Why we pull the trigger so quick?
Well, if we're not in jeopardy, then we won't be doing anything using these restrictions, right? We're just getting prepared for a summer that we cannot predict what the weather will be like, what the water demand will be like.
Right, but I mean, I know
We
as you
know
get,
it'll be higher.
I know as you get towards the end of the month and then into June and July and August, but
Right.
this is,
Mayor Hammond,
yeah.
I have a point of information. Are you referencing the resolution
Yeah.
in our packet or
One in the
trustee
packet.
Gator's
One in the
resolution?
pack.
Because we have two resolutions, correct?
I only have one.
And that's the modified resolution by trustee Gator.
No, I have. Am I not reading the right resolution in my packet? There's only one
Resolution
in the packet.
number 111-2021.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
in
all,
the
that's the one I'm,
Okay, I just want to make sure
Child
that we're referencing the right one.
yes.
And as a response to your question, Mayor Hammond, one thing last year that I remember when we had these discussions is I felt like the restrictions were abrupt in that it was already peak watering season.
Oh.
And then we brought the restrictions on, and I didn't feel like there was enough
Oh, okay.
time
I got it.
to let people know that those were the case. I think approaching this earlier, regardless of the watering needs at this point, gives the opportunity for us to have a great communication plan approaching that season, so that we can speak confidently to a resolution about the plan. And the more communication, the better, right? So in that case, I mean, that's kind of my understanding for the benefit of approaching this earlier.
Fair enough. That's what I needed to hear right there. That's it. That's all I got.
That, Mayor, and I think if you look at the chart Bob put together, it took a while for people to get comfortable and start following the restrictions. So you see the time frame between when the restrictions were posted versus when that chart kind of smooths out. So I think it's better to implement them early to get people used to it, and that should make the
All right.
end of the season smoother.
That makes sense. Just makes sense to me. Now, that part of it right there, that logic, that's all I wanted to know. That's what I needed to know. Okay. What else we got to throw out here on this thing?
So thank you very much, Bob, for presenting that. I did want to make a recommendation. I understand the challenges we face for water. From looking at the graphs, the good news is we're ahead of where we were last year, so that's a positive thing. But I know that we're going to see things tick upwards. What I would propose is I would like to see the board start with voluntary, but not just voluntary that we've had this in place for years, but actually communicating to the citizens and saying, this is where we're at. We would like to work alongside you to address this. And basically start with saying, these are the things we're asking you to do. We're not going to have enforcement right now, but basically tell the community that if we look at the numbers as we get into the end of May and we get into June and those numbers are not dropping down, we will have to make the move towards mandatory. So we can start the communication right away, but we start it as an opportunity of extending an olive branch to the community to welcome them to come in with us and help solve the problem instead of just telling them we're going to punish you further. They're already being hit with high water rates, but hey, if you mess up on your watering and you're overwatering, we're also going to fine you for that as well. So I would prefer a start from a way of inviting the community in to help us solve this problem instead of treating it as if the community is the problem, saying we're going to restrict you because you are the problem, saying, hey, you can be a part of the solution, help us fix this. And so what I put before the board, it's the same ordinance. The only things that are changed is the wording from mandatory to voluntary. One of the other things that I would also propose is that keeping the 2 days, but adding a third day option. So if people miss a day, they're not having to wait an entire thing around. So basically the odd street numbers would be Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. The times would still be the same. You can water between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. And then for the even streets, it'd be Monday, Wednesday, Sunday. So the only changes on that is the addition of Monday to even street numbers and the addition to Thursdays on the odd street numbers. And then outside of that, the changes would be making it voluntary to start off with. And again, I would say that it doesn't work if we just do the same old voluntary. We have to communicate with the citizens and let them know if we don't see the change that we're looking to do on the plant, we are going to have to go to mandatory. But it gives them the chance to help us and be partners with us in this. And so I did write this up. I'm not saying we have to replace it. If the board chooses to, I would like to see this, but I wanted you to be able to actually see what I'm talking about and look at it instead of just trying to figure out what I'm talking about, because I know that caused some concern at the last meeting. And then the one other change was where it says if water falls below levels. It talked in the previous one about the town administrator and engineer would make the decision to limit watering. I put that as the town board because I feel that that is something that needs to come to us if we're going to further limit the citizens. Other than that, this is exactly the same as what's in the packet. So that would be my proposal, is to look at doing this on a voluntary basis and working alongside the community instead of doing it mandatory.
Any thoughts?
So
There. We can
are
start here.
Trustee Gator, you're asking us, so I was given this beginning of this meeting, and you're asking us to, I mean, it says this is a resolution, but it's not part of the packet. You call it a motion, but it's actually a resolution. So it's either one or the other, and if it's not been vetted in the public, I don't even know how we can consider this at this point. I mean, from a procedural standpoint, I don't think it meets the criteria of the public announcement. And so I have some concerns about the timing. I have some concerns about the procedural aspects of it. And again, why are we getting this right before the meeting?
You're very welcome, because I, as a trustee, do not have the right or ability to just simply change an item on our agenda. I took the work of actually putting this into something so we could see what it was, because I, as a trustee, can bring to you as the rest of the trustees and say, this is my recommendation on a change that we can make. We can make changes to proposed ordinances or proposed resolutions as a board. We do not have to pass what is put in front of us. We can make edits to that. So rather than just telling you those on the spot and having you to have to write them down, I actually took the step of going through and putting that in something written so that you could see that. The reason I did not put this in a packet is, as I mentioned, I don't have the right as a single trustee to simply say, we're changing this as the packet.
Trustee Gator, did you have a conversation with Mayor Hammond about adding it to the packet so that it could be vetted by the town attorney?
I did have a conversation with Mayor Hammond. I did not ask him to add it to the packet. I felt it was best that, again, as my thought was to present this to board as a change I would like to see made. But the board can choose to either do something with that, or they can choose to ignore that. The board is not required to do anything on what I had to say, but this is a recommendation that I think will help us to get more work with the community. I think it will actually benefit us more to go this route.
I have a couple of comments on the resolution as written. The first one being is just as a plea to the community, is water conservation belongs to every member of our community. It's really important that we all be neighborly and good to each other, and that we think about our water conservation, because every single act of every community member impacts everyone when it comes to that. Another point I want to make is it's really important to me, and I'm really glad that we're pursuing this, is that new developments are using non-pot systems for outdoor irrigation. That is a significant benefit to our community when it has to do with treated water being used for outdoor irrigation. I mean, that's what we're talking about, is such a major risk for our water usage. The other piece that I wanted to reference was in relation to the town board making decisions versus staff on water utilization in general. I think that we have amazing staff that's capable And when it comes and dedicated, so when it comes to maybe emergency situations, I would hate for the water for all of our residents to be at the risk of waiting for a special meeting to be announced and for the town board to get together to make non-technical or technical decisions that we have trained and capable staff to do. So it's important to me that we leave that power within our staff to address any emergency situations so that it protects our community in those situations. The fact that there are 2 potential warnings before anybody is cited, and the fact that nobody last year was cited means that the education portion of this mandatory restriction was successful. And I do understand that those fines are really indicated for gross negligence for water conservation after multiple attempts for education. So with that said, I am in favor of mandatory water restrictions because it has been successful in the past. And I think this year we're learning from some opportunities from last year, approaching this earlier, improved, amazing communication that's already started in the wettest months that we're having right now about how to be a good community member and conserve water. I think we're doing everything we can to set people up for success. And also provide a good demonstration from the town's perspective in our actions and our landscaping and our watering methods. So I'm really looking forward to those improvements this year. And I think that this is something that we do need to move forward with at a mandatory perspective.
Anyone else? No comments? Real quick, when we brought out these mandatory water restrictions for my first time, it raised a lot of awareness about a lot of things, and it also created some questions about direct watering and that sort of thing. And we addressed those in here. People can water their flowers and they can water their trees. And I live in potable system over there in the meadows. That's terrible, but well, the community did a great job. And 2 days a week is all you need. Okay. And my landscaper that comes by, well, my guy who mows my lawn, Mike Weaver, it's all you need. And my lawn was green. I think you said the same, Trustee Knudsen, and everything was great. It works. That's what's recommended. So, I don't know about throwing them. How do you regulate the 3 days now at this point? Now, it's just if you miss a day or something, how do you regulate that? So, I think people tend to be watering 3 days instead of 2. Okay. I really do. I mean, and it's not necessary. My lawn made it. When you got trees or your flowers, you water them. I wasn't too keen on the procedure myself, although I understand the intent. Okay, I really do. I would have rather have had this done in a work session to beat this up a little bit rather than, sit here and throw it around. So I'm inclined to go with what staff's recommending myself. Okay, and then it worked last year. We got through it. The town did fine. And our stuff needs to be monitored. We're on the edge. We can't take too many risks. It's all fun and games until that thing shuts down. Then all of a sudden, what do you say then, right? Okay, so I don't think so. I think it's pretty important. I don't think you can mess around with it. Otherwise, I would, but I don't think so. So that's what I got to say. Anything else? Any final ones? No? Public? Well, yeah. If we're done, I'd like to open up to the public for this comments on this thing.
I have no hands raised at this time from the virtual.
Okay, we'll bring it to the in public meeting. So one at a time, come on up and state your name and address, and let's hear what you got to say.
Christine Gator, 8132 4th Street. It comes across, if we're going to do the mandatory, that we're in trouble. You guys are against us. And already people don't like what's going on because of the water rates. So I think it would be a good extension of your hand to say, let's do it voluntary. The graph does not support. We don't need, it's less than last year right now. 21 is less than last year. We don't need water restrictions according to the data. The data does not support 3 times over the capacity before the water restrictions, 3 times over after the water restrictions, maybe it's not our fault. Maybe it's the businesses. You guys haven't even restricted businesses. Let's restrict businesses first, then us. Let's try that for a change. As far as the 3 times a week, I don't have sprinklers. I have to remember to water my grass. So if I forget those 2 days that I'm supposed to, then my grass dies. That's why the extra day would be nice.
I got it.
Thank you. And then I would like to water my grass 3 days a week. But I just think that if you start with the voluntary, you're saying to the citizens, we care about you. If you say mandatory right now, when there's no data to support that we need mandatory right now, you're against us. That's what it feels like. I'm just letting you know, we don't appreciate that. We would like you guys to work with us instead of against us. And we're not the bad guys. But that's how it comes across when there's no data to support it and you're going to do mandatory restrictions. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Gator, hold on a second. Now the tone is us against the people. We're trying to protect our water treatment plant for the entire town. That's all. I mean, really, it's in jeopardy. Our town engineer just gave you his recommendations. He's educated. This is what he does. He draws these graphs. I mean, you might disagree with it.
Graph says that we don't need it.
I brought it up too, but you heard other people say this might get you in the mindset and set the tone right now that you can, so that you're.
The voluntary would get us in the mindset as well, though.
Maybe so.
And it would.
It's a little bit of a risk. Is it necessary?
For the peace of mind of the people, for the goodwill of the people, so that people like you. People already don't like you guys because of the high water rates. This is like, you guys can do this to help us out.
Well, Ms. Gator, it's interesting you talked about how it's us against them, but you just said you people, like we're the problem. I mean, it doesn't sound like there's much meeting of the minds there. And your language does kind of reflect a somewhat adversarial tone in general.
I am upset.
I understand that.
Mrs. Gator, thank you for your comments. We appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Gator. Hello.
My name's Denver Hernandez, 8493 Savage Drive. We have I've been here for 16 years. I love my community. I love all these people that I don't usually know or even meet, but I love my community. But I think we're building too much. If we're talking about a water problem and conservation water, we need to slow the growth. Otherwise, these plants we're gonna build them and have them done, and then we're gonna have to build another plant and another plant to do that. We need to really kind of do some checks and balances to our approaches, and quite frankly, I don't think sometimes we're doing that, or it feels like as a citizen sometimes some things that have kind of been said, or kind of the meetings or something, the clarity on when things are coming out is sometimes we get the information, sometimes we don't. Luckily, a neighbor had texted me and said, hey, this is an important meeting. And yeah, it's our money. It's I think the big corporations that you guys that we're gonna be voting on to come in here, they're gonna come siphon all these hard people, all the entrepreneurs of this place, and they're gonna siphon all their money out to their corporations to get, and I just really think we should kind of look to our citizens and to the farm owners and the people that really the entrepreneurs here for some solutions. So that's kind of my 2 cents. So, thank you.
I do want to just make a quick announcement. There is one of the new, well, it's not too new at this point. It's been going on for a little while, but one of the big strategic plans for this board was to improve communication. And the staff has done an amazing job putting together a town newsletter that comes out monthly. If you have not subscribed to that town newsletter, please do so. There's so much valuable information and invitations to these meetings, tips on water conservation, all kinds of fun news and exciting things that are impacting Wellington. It is a great opportunity to be in the know, and it is readily available to everybody. So I know that not everybody knows about it yet. I share every opportunity I have, and it is such a great resource, and our staff is doing a fantastic job. So please subscribe.
Just real quick, is there a problem with tabling this for 1 month? You just got the thing put in front of you tonight, right? To vote on?
No, that's not correct.
Well,
There's an alternative.
okay, but I'm just talking about, we're in the middle of a wet season right at the moment. Looks like we got a wet season coming for another week or two. Why don't you do, again, due diligence, think about it, discuss it, come, broadcast it at the next meeting, then vote on it then. I mean, you don't have to do it tonight. We're not in a dire critical situation. So, table it, and that way you at least show a little respect to the citizens. I know that's what you think you are, but some of the stuff that we see out there, the way we feel, it kind of looks like, we're getting a jam down our throat, and you guys don't want that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good point.
My name is Michael Barata. I'm on 3736 McKinley Avenue. I just have a question as a kind of a point of clarification, and maybe I'm just an idiot, but I'm not sure I understand exactly how non-potable or non-pot water is defined, other than it's not drinkable. Is that correct?
That's right.
And so where does that water come from? Typically wells. So that is not linked to anything regarding the water treatment plant at all?
For the most part,
Is that 100% accurate?
Correct. It's untreated water.
But not water that could be or has been going through the treatment plant.
Non-potable systems generally come from a well.
I just asked that because the optics aren't very good when you see water that is used that is non-pot being watered, green belts in the middle of the day at 3:30 in the afternoon when the wind is blowing, and that water is just blowing in the air, So I kind of wonder, it just adds to the conversation of, water, taking care of our water exactly, and be more responsible with it.
Yeah, correct.
Whether it's non-potable water or just the water that comes from the plant. So that was my question, because I wasn't sure exactly if that water if that's 100% not linked to any treatment plant at all.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Typically, non-pot water is run in some of the newer neighborhoods.
Right.
They have systems they purchased, there was water rights and wells on that property when the developer purchased it, so they have rights to use that water. The town has no jurisdiction, as far as I know, over it. We can't restrict their usage of it. If they choose to turn their non-pot system on and just let it run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they own that water and they can do with what they choose.
Non-pot water could be treated to become drinkable water?
No.
Theoretically,
no,
or never? No.
No, because it's
Okay.
not tied into the town's drinking water system.
Okay, I just wonder how Wellington, for the water that we need as people, how we keep getting aced out of water. And so I guess that's where my lack of understanding, and that's why I wanted to come up and ask this.
Sure, we have enough quantity of water to supply, like we have enough physical water for the community to be able to drink.
Right.
We just don't have the plant capacity to treat it so
Yeah.
that it's drinkable to meet the needs of the community at a high capacity on a regular basis. So it's mostly about
And
the ability to
would
treat it.
The capacity would service how many people currently? As
About 11,000.
11,000?
Yeah, peak demand, At peak demand,
We're
we're
at peak
talking July and
demand.
August.
Okay, right, all right.
During the winter time, we don't use but half of it.
Okay.
And there's some other issues with non-pot water. I mean, typically, the water law in Colorado is incredibly complicated and convoluted, but oftentimes that water by deed cannot be taken and used off of the original parcel.
Okay.
So it's historically deeded to what it would have been a piece of farmland. It's now full of houses, a neighborhood. That water is still tied to the land. So you can't actually take it and pump it into our treatment plant because the laws don't allow it. It's really arcane.
Okay, okay, I agree. All right.
And to further that, the treatment plants that we're expanding will seek to double the service of people that he put it
Well,
out.
so you're looking at 22,000 according to, if he
Yeah,
says 11,000,
roughly.
you're looking at 22,000.
Roughly.
All right, okay.
These are really good questions. And this is one of the opportunities I was talking about from last year. Even though we do, from a town's perspective, use non-pot water for irrigation, regardless of that, we're going to make sure that we're a good example to the community and that we're following similar watering times and those kind of things, just as an example.
Right.
So, and outside of maintenance concerns or issues, but that's something that we've committed to from the town perspective, is regardless of pot or non-pot, to be example for that behavior.
Sure, right. Yeah, it's, we all know that water is a resource that human beings cannot live without. I mean, that's not negotiable. So it seems to me that moving forward, we have to be very responsible with the water, including non-pot water, in my opinion. But if, like you say, the laws are as arcane as they are, and that's out of our jurisdiction, then I guess there's nothing we can do about that, as from my take on that. Is that correct?
Well, absolutely, but use it wisely, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Exactly.
Okay,
Absolutely, including town.
right.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If you want to get a little kind of a brief overview of water rights and how crazy they are in Colorado, if you go to the Colorado State Extension website, because I've been kind of looking up things about water barrels and trying to figure out ways that we can encourage and help our residents keep irrigating even when they can't irrigate with potable water. But it has a very nicely broken down, it's called Water Right Issues Concerning Rainwater Collection, but it tells you about how the water rights work in basic form in the state of Colorado, and especially about how senior rights, I mean, it's a pretty good paragraph, but if there's water that, obviously everybody here that came and spoke, water is an issue to you, I would encourage you to try and get some more information. So when we're talking about things, and if you happen to miss meetings or whatever, and there's some verbiage or language that comes out we're talking about, it would help, it would give you a little background so it'd be more understandable to you. I don't even understand most of it, so that's
Would
why we
anyone
have
else,
professionals.
Other public members like to come up and speak on this issue?
Z3733 McKinley. A suggestion that making it mandatory or voluntary, why not go with voluntary right now and expect the community to accept mandatory when it is necessary? They might be more willing to accept the mandatory restrictions a little bit easier without coming at you and throwing sticks and stones at you, which you don't want. They might accept that, the mandatory, after letting us go to a voluntary system.
Thank you, sir.
Jesse Andreen, 3814 Hackberry Street. So I'm all for saving water. I feel like we have to as humans. I don't know how I feel about the mandatory restrictions right off either. If there is an option to do voluntary, I think we should start with that and see how many people comply, see how many people want to do that on their own. I also wanted to ask you guys what your sources are for the water information. I looked on the packet, I didn't see a list of sources, but I know 2.2 inches is the average in May for Wellington. Last year, we were actually less than that. So I was just wondering. CSU, okay. And again, with that, I feel like we should all be researching everything, making sure that we have the factual data. So, yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Ms. Garcia, I shared a study with staff that talked about the effectiveness of mandatory and voluntary water restrictions, as well as alternative solutions to assisting with situations like this. Maybe it would be helpful to reference that source somewhere on the town website. Because there are a lot of academic studies that have been done on this situation that talk about the effectiveness of mandatory versus voluntary and the best time to interject those into the community.
Anyone else from the public? Okay, we'll close the public meeting at this time then.
Hi, Mayor and Trustees. Had a little sidebar with Bob as you guys were having your discussion to see what compromises we could make, because we put into the packet what had been adopted in the past.
Yep.
And so we're hearing from you all, we're hearing from the community, and we were trying to figure out on the fly, what sort of compromises we could make. We're very comfortable with starting with the voluntary. We are comfortable with addressing this tonight. We feel like getting ahead of it and being able to provide this information and prep our residents for these restrictions. We know it's wet right now. It looks right now that we don't need any restrictions, but we all know that changes very quickly once we start hitting that hot summer months. We are comfortable with doing potentially like Monday, Wednesday, Friday for even numbered, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for odd. We like assigned days, so that would help us with, if there's any enforcement that needs to be done, that would give us, if days are, not sure, you can water Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. It's kind of odd, but let's just set specific days that odd and even can be watering, and we can start with those 3 days. The one thing that we aren't willing to compromise on is not allowing staff to make the decision to put those mandatory restrictions in effect. If we have a piece of equipment that goes down, or something is happening, and to be able to get the information to you guys and for you to be able to rule on that could potentially jeopardize this community. So willing to compromise on a lot of things, but at that one area where we need to be able to jump like that and make some decisions. And of course, let you all know ahead of time before we do that. You would be the first to know, and then we'd get the communication out to the public.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia, for sharing that, and thank you, staff, for being willing to consider. And that's basically what I'm asking. I'm not saying let's not do it. I'm saying this is an opportunity for us to work with the community. And again, if it's not working, we go to mandatory. But I say we start communications as if we would for mandatory. Hey, this is what we need you to do. It gives us a chance to, again, work with the community. So that's my thoughts, and I'm glad to hear from staff. It sounds like they feel like that can accommodate and they can make that work. And that's coming from our professionals that we work with as well, who know these numbers even better than we do.
Okay. Any thoughts?
I have a couple comments.
Sure, let's hear it.
The first one being the word mandatory carries significance, that it is serious and important. So that is something that I think is important to consider. The other thing is that we are stewards of this community, and making decisions that protect our water right now is obviously our top priority. Water is the top of our agenda consistently, and the most important item right now that we're facing. So I think it's really important that as we make these decisions that impact the community, that we're consistent. So not only are we consistent in that we need to invest in our treatment facilities, but also that it's important to conserve water as well. So our standard communication and intention around water is always consistent. So in my mind, I'm willing to accept the resolution as written personally, and I think the staff recommendation is the best that our community can do. And as stewards of our community, I think that will treat our community the best.
Anything else? Nothing? Hold on, if you don't mind. I'm okay with a couple week delay here. I think it's pretty moist out there, but I'm also okay getting back to what we do. This is what we do. That's the resolution. Staff says they can work with it. I'm fine with having them work with it, make it happen. It's what they do. So I guess I'm okay either way. So maybe we ought to just take one last comment and put it to a motion, see what happens.
Well, Mayor Hammond, we can give it 2 weeks till our next meeting and clean up the language.
We can do that. Something like that. Get this thing.
And then
figured
it's
out.
still technically voluntary
Yeah.
until then.
Mr. Gowing, is that, if we table this for 2 weeks, do you see any issue with that?
Process.
Because I agree with Trustee Kinney's concerns regarding the procedural aspect and valuing our water resources and getting on it early.
No, I understand that point. I really do.
I think
I guess
the
I'm-
problem is the unpredictability of this, right? We can't predict what the weather's going to do. We can't predict the rain. We know it's going to get hot pretty soon. But if you look kind of back at this graph right here, we did have a big spike right at the beginning of June. This was the spike that got our attention. And if you guys remember, the weather was kind of like it is right now. It was a lot of precipitation early in May. And then towards the end of May, it started to dry out a little bit. So I think the short answer is we could take another couple of weeks to think about this, and we're for that. But relative to the kind of the board action, I did want to illustrate this jump out there around the August 7th. And I don't know, I don't have my glasses on, so I don't know if you can see my cursor on there or not. Doesn't look like it. But we went from one of our lowest peak days to one of our highest peak days. These vertical lines are a day. So that happened in 3 days. And that's the kind of thing that can happen when you kind of overlay the potential of an important piece of equipment failing, needing repair. It's a matter of days, really. What we have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bob, can you share with us a little bit what it's like right now trying to keep up with the maintenance out at the water treatment plant?
Well, yeah, I can give you a good example. Our guys were pretty much camped out there earlier this year when the filters got clogged up, 24/7 for about a week because they had to backwash every 2 hours. That's a manual process. It should be automatic, but it's manual. Our raw water pump station we have a little bit of redundancy, but we don't have full redundancy there. So those pumps are also old. So it's really just a matter of continually watching this old, outdated equipment to make sure that we're ready. So we've bought spare parts and we have them on the shelf, but there's still a couple days required to make that, to replace that particular pump. So it's pretty stressful for the operators and stressful, really should be stressful for the whole town, because what we're talking about is potentially losing water service.
So what I'm
Town
hearing
water.
is that the recommendation that you've made in the current resolution is preventative in nature to the
Yeah.
aging system that we're dealing with. It's trying to be ahead and proactive instead of reactive to a situation.
That's correct, Trustee McDonald. We need to be prepared for bad things to happen to us here.
Well, I think I would go with the mandatory as written.
I would support a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. So I would like to move to amend resolution number 11-2021, resolution approving mandatory watering restrictions to read voluntary watering restrictions, and to change the days to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays for odd street numbers, and Monday, Wednesdays, Sundays for even street numbers.
What about the section about town board approval for?
I'm not moving to amend those, only the sections I said above. So
We get a second?
Motion died due to lack of a second.
What's that?
Motion died due to lack of a second.
That sounds like it.
I move to approve resolution number 11-2021 mandatory watering restrictions.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
No.
trustee Jerome. Trustee Kenny,
Yes.
trustee McDonald. Yes. Trustee Whitehouse. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Knutson,
Yes.
Mayor Hamman,
Yes.
5 affirmative votes.
Okay. We're going to move on to item 3. This is a resolution 12-2021. It's a resolution appointing Mayor Troy Hamman to the Wellington Housing Authority.
Hopefully, this is an easy one. So trustee McDonald has been the town appointment to the Housing Authority. She is taking on a lot of responsibilities related to water, helping us research and find some ways to help with our water issues. And she has asked to step down from that position. And Mayor Hamman has offered to take on the role of that through the rest of his term. And if his term would end before the expiration of that, then another trustee would be appointed to serve the balance of that term.
Okay. Any comments?
Yep, I just had the question because I know I would assume in part we were looking at appointing trustee McDonald to another board that we ended up not doing. Did you still have an interest in serving on the Housing Authority Board, trustee McDonald, or would you still like to step down?
You know, I do have a background in housing authorities, and I would love to continue to serve on that board, but unfortunately, I haven't been able to give them the time that they deserve. So Mayor Hammond has expressed that his schedule will allow him to be able to attend the evening meetings that conflict with my other obligations that I'm currently filling for the town. So I am passionate about the position. I care about it. It's just they're not getting the attention they deserve. So if Mayor Hammond has the time and availability, it would be best to have representation there.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Public? Any public comment?
I see no hands raised at this time.
Oh, we have one.
Well, she was talking about.
Oh, virtually. Sorry.
Is this for the housing authority? I just had a question with regards to.
Come on up.
All right, so, and this may seem unimportant to a lot of people, but I want to know with regards to the comprehensive plan and the housing authority, and maybe you can answer, how will, as the comprehensive plan is currently constituted, how will that affect housing authority houses? I happen to live next to one. There are 3 on my street. I believe 2 duplexes and 1 single family unit. You know, these are people that, for one reason or another, can't either get a loan for a house, or their credit is so bad that they can't even fill out a credit report to rent someplace, you know, or they're on a fixed income. Things like this could affect families living in that situation. If the plan goes forward, rezoning that area as commercial, would that affect those houses specifically?
Technically, a housing authority board can buy any house anywhere in the community and add that into their portfolio. If it's a multifamily type situation where it's like,
Duplex.
well, a duplex is determined by the zoning requirement and
Right.
density abilities. What you're talking about is a program, and a program that's being offered for the ability for somebody to provide affordable housing.
Right.
So
I guess I'm specifically getting at the rezoning of that core to commercial, as the comprehensive plan has outlined that it would like to do. How would it affect those houses?
Won't do anything to them.
It won't do anything to them. So what you're saying is, if this moves forward and that area is rezoned commercial, then the town of Wellington would not or could not move in and buy those houses from the housing authority to knock them down and turn them into something else?
No.
All right. I know you might think that might be, you know, going off the tracks, but it's a concern to me because one house is right next to me And I already have a business next to my backyard. So if that housing authority house next to me goes away, what would that become in the future? And that would be out of my hands completely, obviously. It would affect me personally. And I know, like, obviously this issue doesn't affect a whole lot of people other than the families that are living in those houses and or the families that are residing next to them possibly.
Sure.
So that's why I wanted that clarified. So,
But in the immediate future, it's not gonna do anything to them.
okay. Thank you.
You bet. Other public comment on the Housing Authority appointment? Does anybody not want me to take it? Okay, then. Let's bring it back to the board. Can I get a resolution to approve, a motion to approve resolution 12-2021? Appointing the mayor.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
trustee Jerome,
Yes.
trustee Kenny,
Yes.
trustee McDonald,
Yes.
trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knutson,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. All right, item 4, this is resolution 13-2021. This is a resolution establishing fees to be charged for residential 3/4-inch water tap permits. Patty's going to talk about it.
You bet. Thank you, Mayor and Trustees. Patty Garcia, Town Administrator. Before you is a resolution to increase the water tap fees for the 3/4-inch residential water meters from $5,500 to $7,500. At the April 20 meeting, it was reported that the town was losing revenues as the water tap fee that was included in the 2021 budget had not been adopted by resolution. It's unfortunate that we're here, but we are working to correct this. I stated at the time that the item would be brought to the next meeting as I have a cough drop in my mouth. I'm sorry, I have allergies and I've been coughing and so I stated that the item would be brought to the next meeting of the trustees, not knowing there were some outlying issues that needed to be addressed. One of those items was a potential requirement to have a study completed prior to the adoption of these impact fees. A study was not budgeted in 2021, and the time for completion for something of that nature would be approximately 6 months. That wasn't an option as far as I was concerned. Further research found that a study is helpful but not required, and staff moved forward to put the item on the agenda for consideration tonight, albeit a little late, but ready for trustee consideration. Any revenues that have not been collected to date related to the tap fee increase will be collected through fund balance or future taps. This would not get passed on to the residents. The staff memo provided 2 alternatives for motions tonight. One is to adopt what is currently being presented. The second option is to table the item and discuss options to increase the tap fee to $7,750 at the May 18 work session, and then brought to the trustees at the May 25th meeting.
Okay. Everybody understand the resolution? Bat it around. Question?
I'm sure we might have a heads up, but is there any plans to collect monies in the next couple weeks for taps? I know we should know what's on the horizon. Is anything planned within the next couple weeks?
I don't know that. And is Mr. Bird on the line? Excellent. I asked him a couple questions today, but that was not one of them. So thank you.
Sorry, I should have given you guys a
No,
heads
no
up on
problem.
that.
I believe we're averaging about 12 a month.
He's coming.
Hi, this is Cody Bird, Planning Director. In the process of getting transferred over to a panelist to speak here tonight, I didn't hear all of there was a disconnect, so I didn't hear the question.
Are we planning on collecting any tap fees between now and the next opportunity we would have to vote on this item? So 2 weeks, or 2 weeks would be working session, then 2 weeks after that, or
May
sorry,
25th.
1 week and then another week, so 2 weeks.
So I'll attempt to address that. If the question is the town planning to collect fees? Yes, we would collect fees on any permits issued during that period. Obviously, the town is not dictating who pulls a permit and when. I think it is reasonable to expect that we may issue a number of permits during that time under normal circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any other comments? Okay.
So my only comment is this needs to be addressed. I was, and I believe most of the board was under the impression that this was supposed to go into effect in January. And I understand that, I don't know how we got here, but we just found out about this at our last meeting. And with this being our first opportunity to take action on this, I think we do need to adjust that. And then I think that's fine. We're having the work session next week. We can discuss moving it from 7,500 to 7,750 at that meeting. And if we need to adjust it on the 25th, fantastic. But I think we need to get this in place right away. We've put in place the changes on residents. We have not put any changes in place on commercial or development in terms of tap fees charged. So I think this needs to be put in place so that we don't have further monies going out that need to be recovered from the 90,000 that's already gone out, plus whatever's happened since the end of April where that number was. So I'm sure that 90,000 is higher now. So I think.
Anyone else? Mr. Byrd, could you tell us how many building permits have been issued as of today? We were at 45 2 weeks ago when we were given this information. I'm just wondering how many more permits have been issued between then and today.
Absolutely. So the town has issued 57 permits for single-family residential. There was one permit was issued since the last report for a townhome that had 6 units. So those townhome units bumped that up a little faster. To date, 46 of the total permits issued to date were for single-family detached dwellings. 11 of those permit applications were for attached units or townhomes.
So then to clarify, we're capping at 100 permits per year. So is that for single family, detached, and multifamily, or is that simply single family detached?
So the total number of permits that we expected to be able to issue in a calendar year contemplated detached units as well as attached units for single family. So it would include the townhomes. We don't currently have any multifamily projects approved. And I'm sorry, Trustee Jerome, I'm not trying to mince words there. The townhomes are still technically a single family housing product.
Okay, that's fine that you clarified that for me because I was a little gray on that area. So thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Anything else? Let's open up to the public, please. If you got anything you'd like to say, please come on up.
Yes, I had a question mostly for Cody, I believe. We've got a vacant lot, and I had inquired about just a simple water tap. And I was told that I would need a building permit and on top of numerous other expenses, sewer tap and everything. Not necessarily that I would use the water tap, but it would be there available to me. And so all the expenses came up to close to $80,000 or $90,000 instead of the $5,500 that is currently for a water tap. If Cody Byrd can answer that question for me, I would sure appreciate that.
Cody, want to take a crack at it real quick, or would you rather have the man come see you?
I'm absolutely happy to have a conversation about it. If you'd like to come and meet with me, we can set that up. In general, I'm not entirely sure I understood what the question was. I think you're pretty close if you were describing a situation where you have a vacant lot and would like to issue or request a building permit. The total fees for all of the town's impact fees, the building fee, and the like your use taxes, that's going to be pretty close to that ballpark number that you shared. That's the total cost of a permit and not any one utility fee or impact fee.
Okay. So what you're saying is if I wanted just a water tap available on that vacant lot, I don't want to build on it. especially at the moment. But why would I need to have a building permit now?
So I think I understand your question a little bit better. The town doesn't issue water taps individually without knowing what the intended use is. So in a limited number of circumstances, we've issued an irrigation only tap where that need was justified. But the town does not just sell water taps.
So it might be easier for me to understand if I could sit down and speak with you in person. I think.
I'd be happy to do that.
Great. Thank you.
Let us know how you do if it's not going, not working. Anyone else?
Christine Gator, 8132 4th Street. If you don't do it now and you wait 2 weeks, there could be a run on the permits because they know that it's going up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So just to keep that in mind.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come up? Okay, Crystal, anyone raising their hands?
Yes, we have Charlotte. If you can unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record, you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, my name's Charlotte. I'm at 3748 Box Elder Court. Just a quick question for the clarifications. I understand why you guys are increasing the water taps and all that. With that, does that also include these builders to purchase the water shares that are going along with the growth of the town?
That's not part of this resolution, but we've addressed that too with them. That's a whole different issue, though.
I'm just curious because I know, everybody's struggling at the moment and it's understandable with everything that's been going on. 2020 was a crummy year for a lot of people with COVID and job losses. It's just really interesting to know if water shares are being bought and what those tap fees are going to be helping improve for the town. Is it going to go back into the water infrastructure?
How much are their builders giving the town of Wellington and water shares?
Yes, it's going into the raw water fund. They come in with money, but on these tap fees, it goes in raw water fund and then we acquire shares for that, but we also make the developers bring shares to the table.
All right, thank you.
Just a clarification. And so when the developers, what the mayor was saying, when they are building, they can either bring water shares or they can pay cash in lieu, which goes to purchase raw water. The tap fees that we're talking about tonight go directly to infrastructure. Those do not go towards purchasing raw water. Yeah, or anything else. Those are strictly for infrastructure.
Thank you for that clarification.
Ms. Garcia, so in my notes, I have back in August and September of last year, we talked a lot about the water rate survey and the different scenarios, rebates, conservation, payment plans, all kinds of stuff. And I believe in that conversation, all of the impact fees came up. And I think that we made a collective decision to take a look at the impact fees holistically and approve them all at one time so that, as Ms. Gator mentioned, we don't have multiple runs on our building department. So is that scenario 2 that's being proposed? Is that the option that
That is scenario 2. That is the option to do what staff had discussed back then. That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding correctly. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
We have Kathy Widelis. If you can state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Can you hear me? I didn't bother to check my microphone today.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. This is Kathy Widelis, 3405 Revere Court. And this isn't exactly have to do with the water tap fee, but is it possible to get a breakdown between how much the current residents are paying for the the updates on the treatment plant and how much the new homes are paying for it? Is there a percentage or something? I mean, I don't mind paying more to help update the water treatment plant, but I think that the new developments ought to be paying a larger amount. Somebody, I think, Mr. Gowing said that right now the water treatment plant has enough, we can treat enough water for, it sounded like 11,000 people, but we don't figure that out by people. We do it by houses. So how many homes do we have the water for? And that's was my main question. And because I don't know how you guys have figured that you need, how much you need to raise these taps by. It sounds like it's costs almost $100,000 just even before you put you know, the basement into a new house, which sounds it's just amazing. People wonder why houses are so expensive, but anyhow, that's my question. How many houses do we have water for, and how many houses are actually in Wellington? So how many more can we build before our water treatment plant really gets overrun?
That sounds like a really complex question, Ms. Widalis. Can we get back to you on that one?
I actually also too, I want to provide some resources that answer a majority of the questions that you were asking. On the town website, there's a specific section talking about water rates, and it indicates the percentage of the bill that you're paying and where it's allocated according to infrastructure, operations, and so on. And then there's a lot of other details regarding a lot of the water important items regarding our water situation on the town website. So I would recommend that you go there. It's also included in the town newsletter. That's my suggestion on that one. And then we will have additional information coming regarding sewer items too. But that would be my recommendation right now, is to take a look at that on the website.
I think it was included in the presentation that was given back to us in the fall of 2020. So maybe we can.
There's like November.
Yeah.
Judy Tippett gave that big presentation. They had all the graphs that showed. I actually just watched it the other day and I can't remember. Sorry. It was on November. It's on the YouTube channel. Judy Tippett did a big presentation. And I want to say that it was 60-40 split. 60 goes towards developers were paying for infrastructure improvements, 40 to the current residents, but don't hold me to that. Go back and watch it.
Okay, sounds like we got to circle back for that one, Kathy. Anyone else?
We have no other hands
Let's
raised at
close
this
the
time.
public comment at this time. Bring it back to the board. Anyone like to entertain a motion for, hold on, I lost my agenda. Resolution 13, 2021. It's a resolution establishing fees to be charged for residential 3/4-inch water tap lines. Take a crack at it.
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 13-2021, a resolution establishing fees to be charged for residential 3/4-inch water tap permits to $7,500 effective immediately.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Yes.
trustee Kinney,
Yes.
trustee McDonald,
Yes.
trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knutson,
Yes.
Mayor Hamman.
Yes. Okay, move on to some reports.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from our town attorney? Okay, anything from our town administrator?
I wanted to let you know there have been some comments tonight, so I wanted to make sure that you heard this. We're trying to mix up our outreach to our citizens. We've been really pushing the social media side of it and providing, that information on our website and through Facebook and things like that. We are going to be looking at some print material, not a whole lot because it is pretty expensive. looking at creating some banners to hang. I know it's kind of against our sign code, but we hear that this is a way to really reach the citizens. So when there's important things coming up as far as trustees and things like that in your meetings, we'll be getting some banners made. They're about $50 a piece. So we won't buy a ton of them, but wanted to let you know we are trying to work on some alternate options to reach out to our community. Also placing our agendas and meeting information, like at the library, we'll post it over at the fire, over at the post office, things like that. So there's print material in other locations.
Thank you. Anything from staff? I see a report of bills in here. Anything we need to talk about? No? Okay, all right. Anything, board members need to see any bills here, reported bills? We'll go over bills. All right, board reports, item 4. Trustee Knutson, you got anything?
No.
Trustee Kenny, you got anything?
No.
Trustee McDonald, got anything?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I do not.
Sir?
I'll be quick. So just keep a heads up. 4th of July is coming up. The CAC is working on planning right now. I was not able to finish the last of our meeting on this last Tuesday. We have another meeting coming up next Tuesday. So I will give a further update once we get to our final meeting of the month. I'll give you more of an update, but that is upcoming. So excited for the 4th of July. And then I just wanted to make a request. This was alluded to earlier. I understand a lot of the town's properties are watered with non-potable water, but seeing as we have just put in place mandatory restrictions, I would like to ask that we put all of our town watering, whether it's potable or non-potable, onto the same schedule that we're asking our citizens to abide by, because again, whether it's treated or not, the appearance of if we've got sprinklers running middle of the day, not good.
Thank you, Trustee Gator, for that comment. We have been working with Dean Campos, our Parks and Rec manager, to make sure that all of our systems are operating like they're supposed to be. There are opportunities or times that we have to go out and do some maintenance and things like that. We are getting some signs made to put in the trucks for public works, so that when we are out servicing the irrigation systems and things like that, we'll put the signs out so people who are driving by are aware that, yes, we're just working on these, we're having to change out the heads or something like that. So if you see anything out and about that is different than what I've just told you, please let me know and we'll go out and take a look at it.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay, if that's it, I have nothing. I've got 9:22. I'd like to get a motion to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks. Hang in there.
Where do you use them on?
I have no apparent idea.
Okay. Can you check on that?
She said that she was gonna send somebody out to look at it.
Because if
Yeah, I was like.
I ran just